Hello, everybody. Welcome to Frame Trap. Today, I am joined by Brandon Jones at the end and Bradley Ellis sitting right next to him. I'm going to be hosting you through this. I am Ben Moore. This is a pretty jovial episode. We all just saw Star Wars a couple nights ago. You guys talked about it on spoiler mode. It's Christmas this week. This week when you watch this, it's Christmas. And so I just want to know from both of you, what are your holiday games going to be? What are you going to play? What do you or anything? It doesn't have to be games.
Oh, so many things already, man.
Well, I was telling you, I already have tickets to see Star Wars again
on Thursday,
the day after Christmas.
Yeah.
Because my wife and I split. She saw Cats and I saw Force Awakens.
Amazing.
Rise of Skywalker. She's like, "What'd you think?" And I'm like, "It was crazy." "What'd you think?" She's like, "It was crazy." She's like, "I didn't hate it." I'm like, "I didn't hate it either, but it was weird."
Yeah.
And so now we have to go take each other to each other's movies.
That's funny.
And laugh and sing.
Jones, I think that's pretty much the perfect summation of how I feel about Rise of Skywalker. I didn't hate it, but it was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also want to see it again. I wonder when the best time next week would be to go, where you could just kind of, it wouldn't be so
It's a busy
crazy.
time in movie theaters.
Yeah.
It's like the perfect time to go see movies.
It'll be in theaters for a little bit. Maybe I should wait.
Just a little bit.
Just a little
It'll
bit.
be there.
Speaking of holiday games, I have so much that I need to catch up on.
Oh my God.
But I've just been playing a hilarious number of Star Wars games.
Yeah, I know.
And
I've noticed.
I regret nothing. Like
Yeah,
it's been a blast.
Hell yeah.
I might just continue doing that. I don't know. Holiday break. But yeah, is there like one big thing, I guess, that's kind of on your horizon?
The one I still want to play that I haven't even gotten to start is Yakuza 3.
Yeah.
But it's just like, man, I'm playing Disco Elysium right now. I'm playing Life is Strange right now. I'm playing Darksiders right now. I'm playing Ori and the Blind Forest right now. I'm just like, God.
It's too much.
I just want to play Yakuza. I just want to beat thugs up.
What you really want is you want to play Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I don't even need to say that. I
Okay.
can just, you could feel it off me, you know?
You're allowed to just like go off into the woods.
Don't
with
talk
blood
to me.
until Final Fantasy VII Remake comes out. How about you? So you got Star Wars on Thursday.
Gotta finish Control. Really want to finish that. And I had this like happy moment and then a sad moment right after Sekiro won Game of the Year at the Game Awards. And I was like, good for them. Damn it, I gotta finish that game.
Well, and maybe you don't feel this way, but like I feel like Control is nice and breezy. Where
Yeah,
it's just like,
so breezy.
I can knock this out in a
You could
day or two.
casually cruise through
Whereas
that
like
game.
I'm thinking about Disco Elysium, and I really want to play Disco Elysium, but it's like, okay, I need to like put my seatbelt on for Disco Elysium.
That's how I feel about Outer Wilds as well, a game and Outer Worlds.
Right.
They're both sitting on my PS4 just waiting for me. And even Death Stranding. I want to, I got about 4 hours in, but I want to I want to finish that. So we'll see.
Definitely. Because I reviewed it, I don't really have this perspective. I just played it until it was done, pretty much. But I wonder if Death Stranding would be a game that would be hard to come back to after stepping away. Because
I could see that.
Yeah. I'm trying to articulate why that would be.
I think I stopped right at the beginning of a chapter. I think I stopped like right at the beginning of chapter 3 so it was like it was right at a moment, because I actually read an article or somebody mentioned, they were like, I know you might be tempted to just kind of walk around. They're like, go, keep going. They're like, don't dilly-dally in the beginning, move and get to some of the later parts, because it seems kind of open world-ish that you should like backtrack a lot.
I don't know that I agree with that.
I don't know. Yeah.
I think if your heart's, especially in Death Stranding, I think if your heart says dilly-dally.
The only thing I'd be worried about is if you got burned out. Like, I just don't want to get burned out.
I just the nature of the job. I just had to move on to other stuff.
Yeah. It definitely happens. But we have an interesting collection of games to talk about. Some old, some new old. And what should I start with? Let's start with one that just recently came out, and that is Darksiders Genesis. Brad, I've been really curious about this game. And I feel like it kind of is currently flying under the radar. Like I'm not seeing,
it's on PC only right now.
Well,
or Stadia. Sorry,
that's right.
I forgot
Brad.
it existed.
Don't forget
whatever that platform
one of
is.
the future,
the most
of
innovative platforms
don't
available.
Forget Google Stadia.
Yeah, it's on there.
Yeah. So tell me about this game. It's War, and I always forget the other guy.
Strife.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, first of all, Darksiders. If you play the other ones, like third person, kind of like Zelda-esque influences going through like places like combat, all that stuff, like the Devil May Cry. I'm throwing out very broad terms here, but like Devil May Cry combat, stuff like that. This one's like kind of like a weird rapid departure where it's like, hey, it's not third person anymore. It's kind of like a CRPG angle or something like that, or isometrical now. And it's co-op. You could play with a friend, or if you play solo, you could switch off. But it still has a lot of the same mechanics and ideas that are in past Darksiders games, like the combat, puzzle solving, all that stuff. Like you're riding your horse through areas like that. It's just like a Darksiders game that's co-op in a different perspective.
Does the because I haven't actually had a chance to play Darksiders Genesis yet, does it lose any of the impact of combat by taking the new camera angle?
So, like, I mean, I haven't beaten the game yet, so it's hard for me to say, but the combat is still good. It still feels like fun, you know, fighting guys, everything like that. You still feel like it plays kind of like how they would normally in the 3D Darksiders game. So I would say, like, it might suffer later on down the line when I get, like, more advanced abilities if it's not as in-depth, but I feel like it's pretty in-depth for what it is.
Cool.
Where, like, you can hop in if you play Darksiders game and be like, oh, this feels very familiar.
Mm-hmm. Where is this taking place?
Prequel before all of them.
Okay,
yeah.
so you can just hop in.
Yes, you can just hop right in.
This doesn't happen too often, I would say, but every once in a while you get a co-op game where it's like, oh, like, yeah, you can play single player, but you're not really getting the experience if you're like playing it that way.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, to me, it's a game designed around co-op. Like, that was the idea when they made this game, is like, we want to focus on co-op. I played it mostly just by myself, and it's still enjoyable by myself, but it would definitely be more fun if you had a friend with you.
Sure. I can speak to this, because I played this at Judges Week.
Yeah.
And this was one of my favorite games from Judges Week. Just like one of my biggest surprises, because I had not played any of the Darksiders games, and I was surprised how much I enjoyed it, especially with it being a departure, how much I didn't feel like I clearly missed something. This is leaning on cutscenes I have not seen, you know, leaning on endings that I did not experience. And I actually really enjoyed the single player because, to me, they're like separated, you know, War and Strife are separated into such clear tank versus DPS. You know, not completely.
Yeah, melee focus, range focus.
War can take hits a little bit more, has more like blocking, you know, like defense. And this was just a preview event, so I don't know how, you know, sometimes when it's just like a slice of the game, they'll really kind of shake up what your abilities are, how high of a level you are. So I'm not sure like how you naturally progress and get more skills. And then Strife was like a lot more about mobility, a lot more about range attacks. And so it was... I naturally just gravitated more towards Strife because he was just like my preferred play style. Yep. And then when Strife started, you know, take a little bit more damage than I liked, I realized, oh, I'll throw in War, and they poof like even like mid jump, you can just like switch over to someone, and that reminded me a little bit of not Bloodstained, but the Curse of the Moon that we got, and how you could swap so quickly between characters. And I was like, I love this. I wish there were more games like this where I had so many characters to literally just like swap back and forth. Because I guess you could just give one character all those abilities, but there is something fun and strategic about like physically changing to a totally different person. And it just like spices up the whole experience. Even if I'm not going to do it strategically, it's just nice to like, yeah, I'm going to finish this combo with War. You know, and then I switch this big bulky guy and boom, this big AoE thing. And then, okay, I'll go back to my character of choice.
How do you find the conversations between Strife and War, and what do you
They're
think of
like
Strife's
the total opposite characters. Like War is the much more serious character, and Strife is a much more jokey kind of character. So they always bounce off each other in that sense.
Does the jokiness? I mean, obviously, those are archetypes that you've seen a lot, right? So how does that?
I mean, it's fine.
Sure.
I was not like, ugh, shut up or anything like that. I'm just like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever, it's fine.
Sure.
Because he's not like super annoying, which I like. At least not yet. But I'm just like, yeah, he's just a little more cocky, a little more jokey about things, but not like overly. It doesn't overdo it.
With this being a prequel, do you feel like it is a story worth telling? Like, does the story have any?
I mean, I don't know. I think it's cool because it's the first time we get to play as Strife out of like all three games. So like that's cool. You finally get to play as the other fourth horseman. But I mean, I haven't finished it yet, so it's hard to see. Darksiders stories to me aren't like the reason I play Darksiders at all.
Sure.
It's just like a nice little thing there, I guess. But like, yeah, there's enough to keep you going.
Obviously, different platforms. You're playing on PC.
Yeah.
And I've just played a little bit of Darksiders 3 on PS4. And so not, you know, apples to oranges comparison, admittedly. But I remember Darksiders 3 not performing well. Have there been any hitches?
No, I haven't seen anything yet. Darksiders 3 did not run well for me either. When I reviewed it, I played on Xbox X. Yeah. But yes, I haven't run anything like that. Like where I was getting like sound issues in my review. Like I don't know if you remember, there's like
yeah.
popping sounds and stuff like that. Like nothing like that.
I remember I put in the sound, and you like reached out to me. You're like, "Oh no, not that."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, I picked a different pop, a different type of audio glitch." Oh, I had to be specific about what audio glitch you were referring
But like
to
I
directly.
haven't encountered anything yet.
I always find it pretty impressive, Brandon. You seem to have a good memory when it comes to editing reviews. Like every once in a while, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I remember that when I edited
you guys.
that thing."
I mean, I just did a tally of like who reviewed what this year and how many games we reviewed, and like both of you were our 2 MVPs basically of our review team. You beat out everybody else, and yeah, you guys are neck and neck. We'll see. Year's not over yet. Yeah. You win. But I reviewed 6 games. One of those was Cat Quest 2. So like I don't, and one of those was the
For
weird.
a second, I thought you were going to say Cats the movie, and I was like, "What?"
I will. Yeah, it's coming. My Cats review. And one of those was the weird Groundhog Day VR game. So it's like I'll pick stuff that I either know doesn't need to be done right away, or I can beat it in a weekend, or it's something like a Red Dead or a Spider-Man where I'm just like, no, I have to. I really want to get this code early. I'm dying to play this. And so a lot of times through shows like this, either listening to podcasts or being on podcasts or group streams, or like I really try to take advantage of those moments where I get to try something that just came out. It's like I don't play Smash Brothers. Like when we have a tournament, like it's like, okay, I want to try out these new characters. I want to get to know this stuff. And so when I am watching footage, I try not to, and this takes a little bit longer, admittedly, that like when Ian will cut a review, he'll get stuff done really quickly. And I take a little bit longer because like I really do like to just watch. I like to try not to skim through footage too fast, because like Death Stranding, for example, it's like this, I didn't cut that review, but it's like I missed out on that experience. So there's a lot of story beats that people are talking about that's like, I wish I had it spoiled for me a little bit. Just so that I could know going into it. Even like Fallen Order, which I ended up playing, I knew I was going to play. It was kind of nice going through those first areas and being like, I know that guy's over there. Haha,
right.
Force push. So I like that perspective. I like, just kind of like peering over your shoulders when you guys are playing a game and, drinking up your experience.
That's kind of a bummer. It's something that I guess I know that you guys have expressed before. I've heard you talk about it, but I don't really dwell on the fact that it's like, oh yeah, like I just spoiled that game for Brandon or Don or Ian. It's not
nature of the business,
right? Nature of the business for sure. But going back to Darksiders, the Darksiders game that I've played the most is Darksiders 1, and obviously using a strong Zelda template there. The strength of it was just the mix between combat and platforming and puzzle solving. Is all of that present in Genesis?
It's got all that, man. It's got your boss battles, got your combat, it's got your platforming, your puzzle solving, all of it.
Which I think leads us to an interesting point where, like, Darksiders has kind of had a tumultuous history with just everything with THQ and all of that stuff. But it's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Which like it doesn't feel that way to me. Like Darksiders still seems like kind of a new series to me, but it's been around for a while. Is any of that combination starting to feel old, or?
I feel like this is such a rapid from 2 to 3, I felt like it was a long time before we got them all. So I wasn't really feeling the fatigue yet, and I beat 3. I was like, okay, whatever. Then this one is just so different, I guess, just how it's presented. It's like nice and refreshing.
Sure.
It feels like lower budget, but not in a bad way, like how things are done, like the cutscenes and everything like that. I guess they're like more comic booky, but it's been like that in the other ones. But it's just solid what's been presented to me so far.
Sure. You mentioned lower budget and obviously the new camera angle. Does it look good visually? I don't know how else.
Yeah, I think it does.
I
think it looks nice. Yeah,
Sure.
and like the art style carries over nice and everything like that. Because when you like do a rapid change from like a previous game, some things can get lost along the way. But it seems like they've kept everything that makes Darksiders good in this still.
It makes me think of that Tomb Raider co-op game that was pulled back. The
2 of them.
Yeah, there were 2 of them. That was like a really cool offshoot thing that they did.
This is a perfect example of this game. It's like the same thing.
They should go back to that. Or
I love those.
Yeah, I don't know. I also appreciate along those lines, and they did it with Tomb Raider as well, but like the Hitman Go style, just really taking this platform, in this case mobile, and presenting Hitman in a completely different way. I love that. There's actually that new Lego puzzle game on Apple Arcade that looks really interesting. I haven't got a chance to play it.
I know.
But I just love reinterpretations of this stuff. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
All right. What are we going to talk about next? This stuff is also strange.
It's not a clear line.
There is not a clear line.
Nothing is really banging on the door.
There is not a clear line. Well, let's go with Brandon, because Brandon, you were like, "Oh, I want to talk about this," and I was like, "That is unexpected." Breath of Fire 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So they both somewhat recently, came to the Switch Online Super Nintendo stuff, and you've been chowing through that.
Yeah. So I played when the first, and I actually brought this up, and it was just like, when you get in the middle of post-summer, before the holidays, that big gaming rush, I showed up and I was like, I played some Super Nintendo games. And you're like, well, we have other, more pressing things to talk about on Frame Trap.
Frame Trap is
I played an hour of Super Metroid, and you were like, there's other stuff.
No,
we got to cover.
Yeah, it's hard because, like, some people just want this show to be 5 hours, but it's like there's so many things you have to keep in touch. It's like, okay, well, Blood wants me to talk about these 3 things, so we got to get those in there if we can. And then a lot of times you can't even get that stuff in.
And Dragon Quest 1 and 2. I haven't started Dragon Quest 2 yet, but I got 1 and 2 when I got that sent to us. So it was fun. There was like a time period where I was going back and forth between Breath of Fire and Dragon Quest, and which I had played. I'd previously played Dragon Warrior back on the NES. And then they just updated with 4 games, and one of those was Breath of Fire 2 on the SNES service, if you have your online account there on the Switch. And it's really fun. I think one of my favorite things about Breath of Fire when I booted it up is I was like, oh, there's auto battle? Well, here we go.
Yes.
What a perfect game on my Switch to just run around and just level up. And just like
this reminds me of a very cute Jones moment. So I've been playing some Galaxy of Heroes, which Jones is
let's talk about
a
Heroes.
master of.
Put it on the list.
Yeah. And I've been really enjoying it. And I was just playing some Galaxy of Heroes, and like, I don't know, it was like a father moment or like a sensei moment where I'm just playing and he just like reaches his fingers over. He's like, you can just speed those battles up. And nope, that's an auto battle. And he just reached over with
and you were like 4 times speed. And I was like,
yep,
there you go.
Yeah. It was,
you don't have to
it was
think about
great.
it.
That's just wanted to say.
Because it took me a while to get to that. And I think it took a while for them to add that, actually. I don't think they had auto battles right away. And they certainly didn't have speeding up the battles.
Mm-hmm. And
which is funny. You go back to like 1 speed, and it's like, ooh, now for me.
I've been rocking 4 speed. Auto battle, they don't always make great decisions. And so
they never do.
Yeah.
It's
So
you have to accept the loss.
Time speed is better.
Yeah.
But man, that game is. I'm having fun with it. I'm not gonna like sit here and say it's like amazing, but they really withhold so much stuff, and you level up quickly. To be fair, but it's like, now I'm this level, and you let me have my inbox. Like that seems like it should have happened immediately. You can't have allies until level 18.
That was 4 years ago for me. I forgot all that stuff. Yeah.
All right. But Breath of Fire,
auto battle and Breath of Fire, and especially for like a Super Nintendo game, like Chrono Trigger doesn't have that.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy IV doesn't have that. Final Fantasy VI doesn't have that. And so it's interesting as a Super Nintendo game comparing it to those two, especially 6 and Chrono Trigger, I think are just like, far and away the best RPGs available on that system. So it was weird that I'm like be playing the game and I'm like, this system's kind of clunky. Well, it's a Super Nintendo. Well, wait a minute, no. I'm like, 6 didn't do this, and like, so there's some things that they do, like auto battle, that I think are really great. The angle has more of a Chrono Trigger vibe when you're in the battles because it's also isometric, and the characters a lot more faithfully represented in terms of like actual human-sized or humanoid size as compares to the sprites from 6. The combat animations are a little more. It just kind of tries to make it look more like a battle is actually happening, and I appreciate that. One of the things that just fascinates me that I'm like, what happened with this is the HUD, the menu is just awful. It's like the menus are so archaic, and it's just tough to like. I'm like, is this? Am I being crazy right now? And I like plug in the SNES Classic and boot up 6, and like, no, they just went their own route. And what was very strange was there was one point I completely got lost, and I actually haven't finished Breath of Fire, because I'm just stumped. I'm at the end of the game. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do, and it's tough to do playthroughs because they takes so long and kind of went a different route that I did. So it's tough to kind of lock my playthrough in with what they're doing. And they'll like go do a step and I'll try to do it and I can't because I did some other step, but they didn't do that until they did that thing 3 hours ago.
Yeah, I was going to say,
like,
just look it up, but you've done that.
There's some guide and it's just, I went a backwards route. And that's one thing just in general that frustrates me about like, you know, the 40th time I'll replay Final Fantasy 1 or going back and playing something. Even I got Zodiac
Age. You played
Age.
through Final Fantasy 1 40 times?
I mean, I played it on NES, and then I played it again on mobile, and then I played it again on PSP, and then I played it, you know, it keeps coming back. And it just seems like such a playable thing, especially because you know, it's fun to just be like, all black mages, let's go.
Yeah.
You know, can you do it?
Yeah, Final Fantasy 1 just goes. Yeah.
But it definitely doesn't just go when I'm like, what am I supposed to do now? Right. And it's weird that there's not like some option at the bottom. It's like, we'll just tell you. We'll just put a waypoint in there. They really are like, no, we want to, you know, preserve the experience of you being totally confused. And so I'm surprised, like going back. I mean, it is like these original versions of the games, but it's just like I would love if there was just some like, please just tell me the guy in the tree phone house in Link's Awakening. It's like, what did I? Okay.
Have you tried like Googling like your contextual problem where it's like, hey, these are the things that I made and this is where I'm at? Because you might find like an old GameFAQs forum post or something.
Right. I have not gone that far. Again, this game is so far on the side of my gaming palette right now. Right. It's just
it's your side dish.
Yeah, it's a side dish, and I enjoy it. It's so like when I got stuck, I just moved on to something else. Especially even just in that library, because there's just so many. Never finished Link to the Past, never finished Super Metroid. So like, I should move on. Even that just Super Punch Out they just added, and it's like Super Punch Out.
You know, Jones, I think a lot of people would be like, you know, you haven't experienced these things, but I think that's like amazing. I think that's like a super positive thing where it's like you
get to live that.
You get to live that.
That was the magic.
Whatever you want.
That was the magic of Final Fantasy VI for me, was because like I didn't play a lot of the Zelda games. My first real Zelda game. I played a lot of Zelda 2 actually on the NES, but it wasn't really until Ocarina of Time that I was like, okay, this is really, really special. Yeah. And Metroid, I just didn't really click. And even though I loved action games, I just never really went back. Not saying these games aren't, you know, one of the greats and just absolutely excellent, not only of their time, but now just wasn't my thing.
Not to tie everything back into Star Wars, but it's been on the brain, and it's interesting. Like
I can't stop thinking about Star Wars. Even after we did spoiler mode, I know.
You've got this thing that's been around for more than 40 years, and you have like 42. multiple. You've got multiple generations of people that all have completely different viewpoints. Like some people grew up with the prequels. There are kids right now that are growing up with the sequels, and they're all coming from very different places. Like I watched the original trilogy as a kid, and so I'm going to view it a lot differently that watches it maybe much later in life. And it's just an interesting perspective. You could do that with this storied game series like Metroid or Zelda or anything. And so just hearing you talk about Breath of Fire and being like, oh man, I wish it had these things, or this problem is frustrating. And it's like, I bet there are people that grew up with Breath of the Wild where it's like, oh, I can't have that experience. You're just coming from completely different places.
But like font size, like why? They were the developers of Breath of Fire were like, this font's got to be huge. It just has to. There's nothing we can do.
Who doesn't like big font?
Big
font's better than too small.
But Final Fantasy VI, you wouldn't say it's too small.
No.
The font
just
is
right,
dude. It's double size. It's like 36. It's just
Pump it up.
They cranked it for Breath of Fire. It's insane. And so it's just like these windows when they pop up for text. And I booted up Breath of Fire 2, and I was like, okay, they have to have just revised it a little bit. And now it's just these massive things. And because it's like some of these other, and even like Chrono Trigger, like some of these other like Square RPGs, like the font size is just enough pixels for you to discern what the letter is. And this is like, you know, like. It's just a massive amount of pixels to maybe even give the font kind of like some kind of a flair, and that was just completely unnecessary. And so you go into like your ability menu and you have abilities that's just like Ent. And it's like, what the heck? What? And it's like, oh, you're trying to spell a word, but you only had room for 3 letters, and so you just wrote down the first 3 letters of that word. Mm-hmm. And so like the majority of spells, I'm like, looking at it, I have no idea what that is. I don't even know what that means. And then like
you don't get any descriptions on spells or anything?
Nope, nothing. Nowhere in the menu can you click and be like, what is that? You literally have to go into a battle and use it and see what happens and go, oh.
You know what I run into with that fairly regularly, especially with older RPGs, is like attributes, where it's like, okay, all your different games, like you have slightly different attributes, but you don't explain in the game specifically what this stat does. And so I'll go and Google and be like,
and I get like
okay,
when you're in combat, you don't get that, or when you're specifically moving things around, you don't get that, or I think you can in the menu, but it's like when you're moving them, you can't, or when it's like there are moments in that game where I'm just trying to make a decision really quickly and just move something around in the menu, and like I can't. Every item stacks at level 9 or at the 9 count. And so, like, if you want to have 5 potions, you have to have, like, potion times 9, and then next to it, potion times 6. And it's like, just stack them. What's the point? If there's no limitation to how many I can have, like, why have them all? And you can't sort them. So, like, when you get new potions, like, it'll just put them all the way at the bottom of the list, and there's, like, 3 columns. And so, like, they're all scattered. And so, like, I'm the guy who played Resident Evil 4, and like all the first aid sprays have got to be in a row, man. Like I would spend hours going through that, realizing it's pure OCD, but like that's just me, and I get a really twisted pleasure out of like making that stuff nice and neat. And so even like Pokemon, man, it's just I played through Pokemon Shield as fast as I possibly could, and just the fact that like it's just all the boxes are just scattered and they're all weird orders and weird levels and all the types are, and it's like I don't have time.
Now that's a show idea. Brandon Jones's Twisted Pleasures.
Just a stream of me organizing things.
Yeah, Brandon. I gotta be honest. I know you're just playing this kind of like on the side for fun. It sounds like you're having a terrible time with Breath of Fire 1 and 2.
No, because it's all fascinating to me, and it's really easy to see where like towns are in the game, and because it's got auto battle and where you get past a certain level, actually some of like the boss fights and some of like the clear like walls that they set up and hurdles you have to get over were surprisingly difficult, because I'm the type of person that like and just for the experience that I've had with JRPGs, it's like little prologue, introduction, high character, you're super weak and you don't know what you're doing. Be careful of that world. It's so dangerous. Tragic event. They get shoved out into the world. And then it's like, go over to that town. And I'll be like, in 5 hours. And I'll just circle around that town forever and then get them up to like level 12. And then I'll go. And I'll just kind of have that buff throughout the whole game. That buff didn't help at all. I got to like the first like boss or something and like got destroyed. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll just level up a little bit more when I have time. Like went back and like got destroyed again. And I don't know if I just like didn't get used to. It's not that intricate of a system. And the I think one of the issues also with Breath of Fire is like the abilities aren't like fun. Like they're just super straightforward.
Sure.
And it was, again, it's like, well, this is a very early RPG. And it's like, no, they have Chrono Trigger and you got like the slash where they do modes together. So when you get someone new in your party, it's like, oh, what does this person do? And it's like they buff and heal. And you're like, all right. Like they don't have like a lance or something, just some cool thing that they do. And especially 6 is like, does that incredibly. 4 does that really well too. You get Rydia and she can summon. And even though you only get a couple summons right away, it's like, whoa, you get Titan in there. And that's really exciting. And
I actually find that still happens like way too often, and not just with RPGs, but like you even today, like you get so many RPGs where it's like, yep, the wizard is exactly the way that you've played a wizard 1,000 times, or the thief or whoever, or it falls into the triangle of tank, DPS, and healing, and it works, and it's obviously it's a foundation you can build off of. But I do find that disappointing sometimes that things aren't a little bit more creative, and even with games like shooters, it's like, really, like you're just gonna have the shotgun, the assault rifle, the pistol. Like we could maybe get, and obviously there are games that are striving for realism, right? So it's going to be a little bit different. But I'm talking in like super fantastical games.
Yeah.
Why are we not being more creative?
And specifically the difficulty, because it's kind of dawning on me now, like, oh, I remember what I did. It's not so much difficulty, meaning there was like one ability that they would have that would like zombify my main guy. And like there was no spell I could do to undo that. I had to have the item to undo that. And if he got hit one more time, he's dead. And so it was like, oh, okay. So I would like, he'd get zombified, and I'm like, all right, and I use the item and then finish just a random battle, not even like a boss fight. And then I go into the next one, zombified, like, oh, okay, and like use that item and then zombified. I'm just like, all right, maybe, I don't know, maybe like add a percentage to that, or and it's like, well, I'll just buff them up so they'll be able to take that guy out, and they like, it still takes like 3 or 4 hits to just one target, and so it just surprised me. And almost done with the game, and 3 characters. That's it. I was like, oh, that's interesting. 3 people in the party.
I'm not opposed to that. Sometimes I really like super small casts.
And the third guy was a werewolf with a bow and arrow, and I was like,
cool.
We did it.
Yeah.
We finally my favorite character in the game. Let's do it. And it's a fun world, and it to get talking more positively, each town definitely has a vibe, has a story, has a personality, has the really fun environmental storytelling, which I actually think 6 doesn't do like at all. Where like I would go into a town and there'd be this big like trench like blocking my way, and I'm like, wait, what's going on? So I got to like walk all around, go up to this bridge, and then on the way back down, I see this like boulder at the end of the trench, and I'm like, whoa, cool. And then I go into the town, and they're like, hey, and this trench is now blocking these two towns that used to be connected by a road, and now the two towns kind of hate each other because they've been separated so far, and the enemies are so dangerous outside of them that it takes a long time to get there. So they're like, oh, you were there? Like, can you take this thing over there, because we don't really spend that much time over there because there's this big chasm that I saw on the way there. And I was like, oh, cool.
That is a cool little story.
Yeah. So it's like they have those beats where you'll see like a big thing or a big like robot in the middle of the classic, JRPG. You got to circle around to go down to that staircase, and then do another circle for that staircase, and then another circle back around, and then another circle. Okay, now I'm in the middle. And then I get there and walk in, and nothing. I can't do anything there yet. Like, oh, okay. Like, I used up all my anti-zombie items. It's going to be a rough battle trying to get out of here. But, things I would see in the distance and wonder what that was. And that was not common to me for the, I think a lot of the stuff in Chrono Trigger kind of seems after the fact, that you would like get to a new time zone and be like, whoa, what's happening here? Yeah. But specifically seeing a building or something in the overworld and being like, what is that? And getting that answer, relatively soon was cool. And again, with the auto battle, starting Breath of Fire 2 now, it's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Here we go. Just, you take it. I'm going to take a little sip of my coffee. You guys fight.
I'm going to hold Milo and auto battle my way through this. You did bring up two things that make me realize, like, I think, like, as people who critique things and really just criticizing RPGs, that I don't think get enough focus, and that is UI. I don't think we spend nearly enough time talking about UI, especially in this genre where it's so important. You spend so much time in the menu. Yeah. I feel like that criticism comes so much after the fact, when where there's a lot of talk about pacing and length and storytelling and characters and battle systems, which is all, of course, incredibly important. But so many of these games just have like absolutely terrible UI, where it's like, if you had just, as you were saying, made these small changes, because you have to do them so much, it would have made the experience so much smoother. I think about Xenoblade Chronicles, which is a game I adore, so much. Very messy UI. Like, yeah, you could get used to it. It's fine. Yeah. It's still a great game, but I just wish more time would have been spent trying to make navigating it and moving things around easier than it is. It's interesting to see RPGs come back. Like I said, I just picked up Zodiac Age for Switch. Nice. And it was just like, again, speed up battles. You're like, let's do it. I don't know how much time, certainly before Goaties, I shouldn't put enough time into that. I got to finish a bunch of games. But it's interesting when these games come back after so many years, they do make a lot of UI changes because people have made so many complaints over the years. And I wonder if devs get not only so familiar with their own systems, that they get comfortable in how they're going to move stuff around because they just get used to that they are maybe not necessarily blinded, but they don't really kind of notice. They don't get that experience of being able to present it to someone and have somebody else step in and figure it out. Right. Like I can easily, see problems in an UI that someone else built. But if I had to build a UI for my own game, I'd, fail miserably because what the hell do I know? It's like, I think that's a really hard thing to know the best way to do. Even just like when we do Twitch streams, like how big the thing's going to be versus the camera. It's like, it's just not a skill I possess, not a passion that I have. It's interesting how time changes the importance of something, because like replaying Final Fantasy VIII for the Don't Skip, at the time when I initially played Final Fantasy VIII, I didn't really care summoning things over and over again, because it was like, I cannot believe my little PlayStation is spitting this out. Like, it's just so majestic and wonderful. But then obviously so much time goes on. It's like, okay, well, this doesn't, by today's standards, this doesn't look great at all. I love the fact that in this new version, I can just speed right through that. And it's like, that's trying to appreciate the game now in a way. And it's like, this is so good. Like I know people complain a lot about how many remasters we're getting and how many remakes and all of this stuff, but when they do it right and they do make even sometimes the smallest changes, it can give you a more definitive version of something in a way that I'm really grateful for. Like there's somebody out there being like, okay, well, how does this thing make sense now?
Yeah.
Especially with games that are so reliant on technology. Like I've been playing a bunch of Star Wars games, and I've been playing some of them on the One X, and just seeing like the upscaling, it's like, oh, this looks so nice. It's like this thing that it's amazing to me that I can just like pop an Xbox disc into my Xbox One, and it's just like it's there, it works.
It's it's been fascinating over the 4 years I've played it is Galaxy of Heroes with their UI because like at least once a year I'll like boot the game up and be like, wait, what are you, huh? Like that's over here now, and like almost every time it's like, what are you guys doing? And then 2 days later I'm like, that was a good call. I like that. That's it. That's easier. I can see it all on there now. And
see, maybe it's just because I'm a new player and I'm not familiar with everything yet.
I have no idea what that perspective is. Yeah,
because that UI is like way too wild. Like sometimes it feels like finding very basic things is not.
Because that's what they tried to do is like, how much more can we add to make you to almost any screen you're on give you every functionality you could ever possibly want. What UI was very frustrating is Fortnite and how that's evolved. Because I played Fortnite before Battle Royale came out, and so I played that right off the bat. And it's like almost every time I'll go back every like 6, 7, 8 months and just play for like a weekend or something, and then like I'll put it down again. And it seems like almost every single time it's like, oh my god, where is what now, huh?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because they do that like, okay, we had to change everything, so we just took all of your points away, and you have to reallocate all of it. And it's like, all right,
That reminds me. So I, like in between high school and college, I worked as a tech in an ER room.
Whoa.
And I don't know if a lot of people know this, but anyway.
There's a show.
Yeah. And it was great. I actually really enjoyed the job immensely. But, being like a young student, there would be chunks of time where I wasn't working, or I was just off doing something else or distracted with school or whatever it was. And I would come back after like a time away, and just the way that a hospital works, it would be like, you can't do that now. Like this thing that you did all the time every day, it just doesn't work like that now. And in fact, you'll get in like a bunch of trouble if you do it. Like it moves so fast, and it was so there. Obviously, it's a hospital, but there are so many rules and regulations that are just constantly changing all the time. It was fascinating and frustrating, but fascinating.
It's been interesting to follow. Shout out to Michelle Jackson, Mishamagius in Twitch chat, who is developing a game and giving us development updates on during the community showcase.
Yeah.
And she like infamously will like post stuff, and she's like, hey, ignore the HUD. I'm figuring that out.
Right.
And or she'll put a screen, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. And she's like, it's crap. And I'm like, it looks fine.
Yeah.
I want to play this. You're done. Give me everything you've done. I want to play this game.
Yeah.
But it's stuff like that is always in flux, and it's interesting to see early versions of games that just had no HUD, because they were like, oh, we'll think about that later, man.
Right.
Blah. We got to get this game's got to feel good before we do any of this. So we need to put the systems, the games will be, the characters will look stupid, the environments won't even be there, but as long as we know like, oh, that felt good jumping and hitting that guy. Okay, now we can do everything else.
Abby and I were watching it's on Disney Plus, the making of the original Star Wars trilogy, and they were talking to some Industrial Light and Magic guys, and they were like, man, like George wasn't happy. There was a point in the process where George wasn't happy with some of the effects stuff that we were doing, and he was like, I was really proud of it, and I thought that we did a great job. And I looked at each other, and it was like that, like at the time especially, like Star Wars was. That's what it was known for. Like they were doing things that they created it out of nothing. And so it's just interesting, like kind of the mastermind behind it all. Like, oh, it's not quite how he wants it, or whatever thing is in his head, it's not quite lining up. And that's, I don't know, that's fascinating to me, how different people can look at something and be like, it's good or it's total crap. And obviously in that interview, you don't get to see specifically what they're referring to. But
I love just rewatch Return of the Jedi to cram as much Star Wars as we possibly can.
It's gonna keep coming.
But when they're getting ready for the Battle of Endor, I love when like the fleet comes in and the Falcon goes like, whoop, just right up against the camera, and I can feel it's the model guys being like,
gotcha.
That's Good Looking Falcon, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're like, yes, it is. I love that show.
I want to insert a little whisper. He's a good-looking falcon.
You like that, Falcon?
Brandon, the other thing that so the UI with RPGs, but the other thing that I want to bring up is boss battles. Because I feel like in a lot of RPGs, when you talk to people about their experience and then when you remember your own experience with these games, a lot of times you're like, oh, I liked this one boss battle that was a huge difficulty spike, maybe at the beginning, maybe another one like near the end, and then maybe the final boss battle. But there's like a lot of filler boss fights in these really long games. And obviously it's a huge challenge making everything feel, equally memorable, of course. But I don't know, sometimes I wish there weren't so many filler fights or fights where it's like, yeah, I just kind of like did what I did in a regular battle.
Where it doesn't feel special.
Right. I wish sometimes that there was a closer examination of those moments, I guess.
I think the thing that always, and this might just be like a culture gap, but like, it was difficult for me, I think, to adapt my play style and my interest. I think the number one thing that drew me to JRPGs was just story. That I was like, whoa! I think it was the thing that blew my mind before anything.
Yeah. Systems,
combat, whatever, was the characters and the opera and all, just playing 6 and being like, I didn't know we were doing this. I didn't know, like the you could have this many characters. You could have, characters die and people mourn them, and characters go and then 10 hours later come back. Like that was crazy, so it's strange for me to have like bosses change forms just cause, for something that doesn't necessarily make sense at all or is foretold in any way in a story, or have a boss that kind of stands in your way. One boss fight from 6 that's so great is when you fight Ifrit and Shiva, and it takes Shiva to be like, wait, and like tells Ifrit to stop and be like, wait, I think we can trust them. So like it makes you see them, and then you go down to talk to them, and then you fight them, and then the end of the fight happens in a specific way. Even though I don't think the boss fights are the strongest parts of it, there are moments in Fallen Order where the boss fight doesn't necessarily end when you get to the end of the health bar. It's about halfway, and then that character just takes off, and you're like, oh, and it kind of makes sense, you know. And so I like when the story and the boss fights don't seem like they were completely separate teams working on them. And sometimes I feel that way in some RPGs where I'll just be like, who are you? And they'll fight them like, okay. Cool. Even 6 has a little bit of that. Who's the guy? Who's the classic guy that keeps coming back? It's actually a legendary swordsman that appears in like all the Final Fantasies. No, it's he like shows up on the train and he's like, "Aha! I'm here to steal this thing." And you're like, "What are you doing?"
I don't remember.
And then
I don't either.
Takes off.
Everyone's screaming.
Yeah, chats. Sorry, it's gonna be in the comments. Yeah. He is an actual character from mythology. That I don't know.
Gilgamesh?
Gilgamesh.
Yeah.
Oh,
there it is.
What did you said Yojimbo at first?
Yeah.
My mind like translated that as Yojimbo.
Nice, Brad.
Okay.
Did it.
Yes.
Did it.
There you go. Okay.
Swords, Gilgamesh.
But I mean, that's an example of like, what? Like, what are you doing here? And you're like, oh, well, that'll make sense later. And like, no, it's just you just bump into weird people sometimes. And so I kind of like I like the way Witcher evolved it a little bit in that. In a lot of ways, you are asking for it if you put yourself in a difficult situation with a very strong enemy, because it has been foretold. You took that quest, you saw how tough that was, people told you about it. You can even go past that and ask more questions and get more story before you go up and confront this thing. And so there's a lot less moments where you're just like, oh, just following the hallway of the story, and then wait, whoa, why is this dude blocking me? Like I just want to hear for the story.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up the story being the thing that brought you to RPGs, and it was the same thing for me, where like the battles were cool and all, but I was really blown away that games could tell stories that were affecting me as emotionally as they were. But the older I got, the less that happened, and so because I could rely on the story less, I got more infatuated with the battle systems. And it's interesting that you bring up Witcher, because that's totally true. Like the actual fights in Witcher are not that amazing, but the stories they tell around those characters and the context that you get for what you're fighting makes it exciting and interesting and enthralling, even if like the moment-to-moment battle isn't necessarily that great.
Yeah.
You remember it regardless, and I think that is really cool. Speaking of The Witcher, I watched the first episode.
Oh,
I know.
I haven't seen this yet.
I know.
Just the first episode. Unfortunately, it's all out there, but I just watched the first episode of The Witcher Netflix show.
How many episodes?
8.
Cool.
Just 8 episodes. They're all about an hour long, I believe.
It's just waiting.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So obviously I can't speak to the whole series, right? This is just a first impression. It's decent, I would say.
It's
solid.
No Castlevania.
It's swimming. It's hard to compare because Castlevania, I feel like I watched a lot at once. Like what's weird about first of all, I think Henry Cavill does a good job. He is very clearly trying to do Geralt's voice, but he does a good job. I think it's just kind of the structure of that initial episode that is a little off-putting. Like there's a clear distinction between the first half and the second half, and the first half has way too much exposition in it. Like, you will bounce around to different places, and it feels like every scene is just like shot, reverse shot of two characters dumping a lot of information on each other. But then it shifts, and you kind of go into this war, and things get a lot more interesting. Something that I really like about the first episode is it definitely sets up the rest of the show very effectively, but it also feels kind of self-contained. Like they tell a nice, complete story. And the thing that I would say I was most impressed with is, we joke around the Easy Allies offices about morally gray and how much that gets trumped up. But it's obviously true in the world of The Witcher. Like it is a morally gray world. And they actually do that to great effect. Geralt is kind of wrestling with something, and he's got two people that want him to do opposite things. And he's like, listen, I've been through this. I'm not going to listen to you. I'm not going to choose. But then his hand gets a little bit forced, and he has to choose. And the way you kind of feel at the end of the episode, it's like, that wasn't necessarily the right choice. He made that choice. You could see why he did it. It all makes sense. It's all very logical. But you're kind of left with this feeling of like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, what would have that looked like if you chose the opposite thing? And so I think that is pretty cool, especially in an initial episode where you are trying to establish so much with so many different characters in multiple places, and you are dealing with a large-scale war. I think that's pretty effective.
Nice.
So, it's weird because I feel like I can kind of say this about The Mandalorian in a way, but it works for The Mandalorian. There are definitely like effects and costumes and set designs that remind me of like you just see the budget in a way. Not that this necessarily has a low budget, but it doesn't. I don't know. There's just something that looks slightly costumey about it. Like you're very aware that these are actors and that is a CG effect. Like there's something about how those things are meshing that doesn't always quite work. So
Sure, yeah. I understand that.
But
Especially because like Star Wars, a lot of it's like people watching the movies, which are insanely high budget, and you're watching a week-to-week show.
There's a desolation to The Mandalorian that I think is very intentional.
Yeah.
It's like let's not have him
Barren.
go to Naboo, okay? Like, there was
keep
like
everything
a
barren.
list of things that Favreau couldn't do. It's like, okay, let's say no Wookiees, okay?
But the thing about The Mandalorian is like it's an incredibly cheesy show.
Oh yeah.
But it's very aware of that. And I think
It's consistently cheesy.
it is it is. I think that's the thing, is that consistency. And obviously, just the first episode of The Witcher, there's sometimes a like really believable grounded grimness to it, and then there's other times where it does feel a little cheesy, and sometimes it feels like it's fighting, whereas I feel like The Mandalorian is just a lot of cheese. And I'm not saying that everything about The Mandalorian works, but that consistency is important. Something that I do like, and also I really liked about Castlevania, and something I've been impressed about with these video game adaptations, is I feel like if you don't know anything about The Witcher at all, you have no experience with the games or books or anything, you can jump in and enjoy this and understand the logic of the world and get a sense for the characters without them being so stilted, like, hi, this is who I am and what I believe in. Like, you learn those beliefs through their actions, just like you do in Castlevania. I feel like I think both adaptations do that very, very well. There are references where it's like, oh, I get that. Like, I understand what this place is now and what this reference is and how this connects to Geralt's past that I've heard about in the game. I imagine if you've read the books, there's even more stuff in there, but none of it like has that annoying clawing like, did you see that? We did the thing. Did you see that? It's not, it doesn't pander so desperately like that, which I like. So, yeah. Excited to
I can't imagine on the stat show. I'll
definitely gonna
as
watch.
soon as humanly possible, I will check that out.
Yeah. I'm curious to see what you guys think about it. I'm curious to see what you think about the performances. The effects for spellcasting in particular, I think, are
amazing.
Not amazing.
No, I meant like
yeah,
because they're not.
Right. Yeah, it is. It is kind of its own charm.
I want to see him chug potions. That's what I'm in for.
Yeah, the initial battle that he has is interesting.
And obviously that blood take we need.
Yeah, the blood take.
Oh my God.
Blood has read all the books, and of course it's like, well, I'm gonna reread them, and I'm like, how do you have time?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't play games.
I feel like I don't have time to like read a book, and he's thinking about rereading all the Witcher books. Well done, Blood.
At least the first one, because I think it's
more,
more in line with what the story that they're trying to tell with the show.
Yeah. I would love to. This is one where it's just like my quick initial impressions. I'd love to get on another Frame Trap and after we've watched more and talk about it, get Bloodworth on there. But Bloodworth is gone. He's doing Christmas stuff. He's gone. He left. This is how we're telling you.
Back in Florida, baby.
Another thing that I've been playing in not Blood, Brad.
A lot of bees.
A lot of bees. There are way too many bees at this company. Brad, you've checked it out too. I was actually playing it this morning before I came here. Halo Reach on PC.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
It is always nice when you have something in your mind and you're like, I really love that. That was a high point for me in this thing that I loved. And that's what Halo Reach was for me. Like, the Halo Reach story hit me in a way that I really appreciated. I thought it was a cool direction. I thought there were a lot of ideas in that game. I just have this fondness for Halo Reach. And I was playing at the beginning of the campaign again today, and I was like, this game is like better than I remember. Just from the way that they frame the story, like there are some lines that maybe don't quite work, and some of the faces look a little rough just due to the passage of time. But the way that they present the story and they show the relationship between these Spartans feels very believable. They have interactions. They have little fights. They're on this mission. They feel like people because they don't always agree what the best path is. But there's a constant forward momentum to everything. It's like, we are under attack. We have to deal with this. And so they're always moving. They're always doing something. And just the shots that they use. I mean, just like you're watching, like mid-mission, it's like, okay, now we got to go over here. And so you get in the ship and you have this incredible shot of the landscape as you're flying to your next destination. It is really, really cool. It's also nice to be playing Halo with the mouse and keyboard again. It feels great. Just like lining up those headshots with the VR, with the mouse and keyboard. The enhancements, it looks really, really nice. Again, some of the faces, maybe not quite there, but the environments and the way the Covenant looks specifically, fantastic. The design of the missions is really good. Just immediately you get a lot of interesting firefights, and like all the way back to the original Halo, right? Like, that's what made it so good is like, yeah, you have the composition of these enemies. Like, you have the little grunts that are fun to just like shoot and watch them like fly off, or they kamikaze with plasma grenades, or in Halo Reach, like you shoot the back of their thing and they fly up into the air. But then you have elites that still feel really smart and aggressive and tactical, and the way that they roll, it makes them kind of a struggle to fight, and hunters and all this stuff. Like, Halo still has so much magic in it. Mm-hmm. That, like, I was playing Halo Reach on PC, and I was like, and this is not a slight against Destiny. It's really not. But I was like, I would love, like, a Destiny Reach where it's, like, not a service game. It's just like a single-player campaign that's, like, 6 hours long, self-contained.
Never thought about that for a second.
Yeah.
That's a fascinating idea.
Just, like, some offshoot game I would love to see for Destiny that just tells a story in that world. And you don't have to worry about like light level or any of that stuff.
Gear,
or like getting your friends together. You can just play it on your own. I would love that because I think Bungie did such a good job. with Reach, one thing that I don't like, and I was like, oh, this is dumb, is you have these different Spartan powers. So you have like the armor lock where you slam it down and you're kind of invulnerable for a period of time. Cool ability, fun ability, like kind of tense to just be like surrounded and then pop that and be like, ah ha ha, you can't get me. But one of them is also sprint.
Yeah.
Which you get right away, and then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to try something else. And then you're like, oh.
I miss sprint.
Now I can't sprint.
Yeah.
And I respect what they're trying to do, and I do think it is good when games have you make hard decisions. But, like, this is not an interesting choice. Just let me sprint.
It's like getting rid of jump.
Right.
It's like, what?
Right. It's just like, just let me have this super basic thing.
Yeah, that definitely. I remember doing that in multiplayer.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'm going to pick sprint every time.
Yeah.
Because I want to sprint forever.
So that's frustrating.
Yeah.
Riding around on a ghost is pretty sick, though.
Oh, yeah. Dude, vehicles in Halo are always so much fun.
That is something that in Halo that other games really have not taken the mantle with. I guess Destiny a little bit, but just the interplay between vehicles and how much they play into combat and how many you get. That is something the first-person
Yeah, they
shooters
don't really do that
haven't-
much. Yeah.
Haven't taken off and run with.
Bring it back.
Brandon, I know you're a big Halo fan.
Yeah. Oh, I played a lot of Halo. I definitely dropped off. I played Halo 1, 2, and 3. Didn't play Reach. Didn't play 4. Didn't play 5.
What happened? You just like get your fill?
I finished the trilogy, and they just didn't really sell me on having to come back. It was just kind of like, you need to come back because we need to make more of these because this is our flagship story. But I wasn't.
Man, I would love to get your opinion on Reach because
I did the Halo retrospective, so I know the story of Reach. I know the characters. I know the tragedy. You know, I know like the best moments of that game narratively.
Yeah.
And the music is really great. It was. I remember cutting that part of the Halo retrospective and having it be so easy, making it look good. You know, so easy, just being like, oh, this one part. Oh, wait, no, I'm going to use that cutscene later. That's a good cutscene. You know, like, yeah, I remember that really, really standing out and really being impressed. And remember just doing the research and having people clearly be like, this, you know, Halo Wars is fun. And, you know, like there's some other stuff, you know, that you should definitely check out if you're a fan. But this is definitely really special and stands on its own. And a story that I even knew going into the first Halo because I kind of, you know, did some research on the books and some of the narrative, you know, surrounding, you know, the games. And so when Reach came out, I was like, oh, that is a cool story. And even if you did know going into that campaign what was going to happen to these characters, it still is, you know, is not something where it's just like, you know, like with the prequels, Star Wars, where like, you know, whenever Obi-Wan's in danger, it's like, oh no, Obi-Wan, I hope Obi-Wan doesn't die. You know, you're like, no, but it's what they do and not necessarily like how it all wraps up.
Yeah, I think just the direction that they chose for Halo Reach allows them to like present the Halo story in such an interesting way because you think about like Halo 1, 2, and 3 and like the way that those games start where it's like, okay, you are this like great hope and shit is hitting the fan immediately like you're going. And those are effective openings, but in Halo Reach, there's this sense of like, let's go check this out. What's going on? It's super quiet. These people are terrified and like you're kind of like this threat isn't understood yet in completely. And just kind of uncovering it and having that sense of dread. And then just working with a team and them really prioritizing like, no, like you guys are a unit. Like you guys go over there, take on this objective. We're going to go over here. It's not just like Master Chief.
Yeah.
You are part of this very specialized group. And I think those changes and other changes make it very effective and very interesting. Like it feels, I don't know, there's just this like purpose behind Halo Reach that I think other spin-off games suffer from where it like you're playing it and it's like, yeah, I guess you could tell this story. Like, but you don't need to. Like this feels like they really had something that they wanted to say with it. So,
and I felt that there was like a directness between all of the missions. The missions are segmented, but like you really, like you're saying, you were on the run. Yeah. And that's actually what I really appreciate about both Half-Life games is that like you never get to breathe. It's just like you know,
that's
you
a
just
great
constantly
point.
feel when you look back, you're just like, man, that would be exhausting to get through what I just did. And even like my favorite Call of Duty games, there have been some segues into some missions where it's like, all right, now we're going to Africa because this thing dropped and here you go. And I'm like, wait, why am I here? Or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I missed. I'm sorry, I missed for 5 seconds you debriefing me on what the hell's going on, and like the VO kind of needs to catch you up in case you missed it. You know, whereas with Half-Life it was like, oh no, I know why I'm here because I walked here.
Well, that is actually something with Reach that can be a struggle, and like very quickly it's like, no, I need to turn subtitles on because you have this kind of constant forward momentum, and because it's like we need to go here and do this thing. You'd be like, you do have those moments where it's like, wait a minute, like that happened really fast. What are we doing again? Like that can happen if you're not careful. So you
gotta
have
keep
to
it moving,
pay,
baby.
Yeah, you have to pay a lot of attention, and of course, like the way that these characters are talking to each other, like. They have a history that you haven't really seen, and so you kind of have to interpret it, and so it can be a lot.
Yeah.
A lot comes at you very, very quickly. But the demons made a deal with me.
Uh-oh.
They were like,
Oh, for the holidays?
no, not for the I wish it was for the holidays. They're not that kind, unfortunately. But they were like, we don't buy it. Ben, you've been getting into Star Wars so much and returning to it and just getting obsessed with it. Brandon claims he's this big Star Wars fan. Brad claims he's this big Star Wars fan. The demons are not buying it because they're the biggest Star Wars fans.
What do they want from us?
Oh no, it's Marvel Ultimate
And
Alliance.
they hate it. And so they're going to ask us to play a classic frame trap game, real or fake.
Name that Jedi.
Star Wars Planets.
Oh,
okay.
Not my expertise.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard, Brad.
Okay,
it's hard.
okay,
And I'm
okay.
pulling from Legends and canon here.
Oh, I don't know jack about
All right.
Legends.
All
Well,
right.
let's go, baby.
I've perused a wiki in my day.
The old Mike
You
Huber
know?
method.
Somebody slapped that on a shirt. Okay. All right, are we ready?
Mm-hmm.
The first planet. Is it real or fake? Arbiflux.
Fake?
Oh, that sounds like
Arbiflux?
It's real.
Oh,
What?
damn
Sounds
it.
like Arby's, dude?
Arbiflux was a forest planet located... I'm pulling this from Wikipedia, by the way.
Okay.
Arbiflux was a forest planet located in the outer rim territories of the galaxy.
Oh, come on.
featured in. Do you know?
Yeah, what?
No, I didn't write that. May not have been featured in anything.
Yeah, it's in the Outer Rim somewhere.
Actually, there's a lot that are like... It's in the... Yes,
okay.
there's a
Did
lot
you
of
see
that.
my post in random though, in response to what Blood said?
Oh.
So like on the podcast, Bossman made a joke and he was just like, all right, nobody's saying anything tomorrow because we're all because I saw Rise Thursday night, you didn't see it till Friday, so I was just like, okay, I'm not even gonna type like, that was a weird movie. And Bossman was like, yeah, nobody talking about, hey, look at that knee knock.
Yeah.
And of course, like Bloodworth
my
goes into random and he's like, hey, what about that knee knock?
Yeah, that one
And
knee
I was
knock.
like, you know what? I bet. And I went to Wikipedia, typed in knee knock, and it's like a planet featured in blah, blah, blah. And it's like,
Yep.
So I like took a screen grab and just posted it.
Yep.
Never underestimate weird
No,
words in Star Wars.
this is an extremely difficult game. It has no bearing on anyone's fandom at all. Number 2, Frong.
Fake. Frong?
Frong.
Spell, please.
I like that. Frong. Frong.
You said Frawn. I would have believed. Yeah, I'll say fake to that one too.
Real?
Damn it.
Damn it, dude.
Frong was a planet located in the outer rim that was the homeworld of the Frong species.
Ah, of course.
Frong, Thron's like, come on, man.
Frongs.
Too close.
Ojam. Ojom. Ojam.
That's gotta be fake. Ojom?
I'll say it's real.
It's real.
Oh my god.
They're all
Ojam was a
real.
world located in the galaxy's deep core that was the homeworld of the Basilisk species.
What?
Star Wars is
Okay.
weird and
But
bullshit,
that seems
man.
more. But that one seems more like traditional. When you end with
Bo-
a consonant.
I'm sorry, what was it? Bojong?
Ojam.
Ojong.
Ojam. All right, number 4, Nuck Nuck.
Okay, that has to be fake. I'm gonna be so mad if this is real.
It's fake.
Okay,
it's
thank
fake.
God.
You're both
Yeah,
gonna
Planet
pull it.
Knock Knock. God.
did it. Knock knock. I
All
would
right.
love if somebody calls you on that. And it's like, actually,
I mean, I did look to make sure that it wasn't.
Wikipedia doesn't get everything correct.
Yeah.
From
Nuck
Jedi
Nuck.
Knight.
Somebody now they're gonna make.
Read the
Nuck Nuck.
comic.
Yeah.
All right, number
Some
5.
writer.
Last one.
Knock knock.
Banta Achu. Banta Achu.
Banta-Achu.
Fake.
Yeah, that sounds fake.
You're both right. It's fake. Yeah.
Banta-Achu.
I tried my best.
Well,
Okay?
they sound like it sounds like Bantha, so I'm like, it sounds...
Dude, that planet sounded like Thrawn. Thrawn.
Yeah. Well, that's why I said it was fake.
It's like a G.
You both put up a very
No,
valiant,
it was real. That planet was real.
No, that's why I said it was fake, because it sounded fake.
You both put up a very valiant
Oh my
effort.
God,
Brandon
dude.
ekes out ahead 3-2.
Yay.
Um,
Suck it, Brad.
I'll lose to these dumb planets any day. Go back to your canceled,
Suck it, Brad.
canon.
Suck it, Bread was a yellow card there. No, that's okay. So just to reiterate, Arbiflux, real. Frong, real.
Good to know.
Ojam, real. Nuck, fake. Banta Achu, fake.
I thought there would be at least one gimme, but all 5 of those were tough.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I don't know why I made it tough. I think I was just like so infatuated with how crazy they were that I just like, nah, they're...
It's like they're never gonna run out of planets, dude. I feel like they blow up planets all the time. I was just like, they're
There
never
are,
gonna
yeah.
run
Can you
out.
imagine if I was like, Tatooine,
Yeah.
Jakku? No. Come on. You're better than that. Brandon, you are going to have to break us out of this frame trap.
Sweet.
You don't have to, but you can do a Star Wars breakout if you want. But before we get to that, we have some wonderful shout-outs that we've got to do. This is from our new shout-out tier on Patreon. If you want to see more about that, go to patreon.com/easyallies. Our first shout-out goes to Elthanas. Shout-out. Last time when I did the shout-out, so Huber was on the episode. And when we did the shout-out, I had to, like, cut that part of the audio and, like, crank it down so much because he got right up in the mic and like
super loud
screamed shout out, and it was just like painful to listen to, so I had to like go back like, good
old Huber, dude.
Shout out to Elthanas. Next we have Greg the Dark Knight Kettering.
Shout out.
Thank you, Greg. After that we've got Caleb Togi Crawford. Shout out. Next we've got Will Schmuck. Shout out. And last but certainly not least, we've got FantasyCritic.Games. Shout out. Shout out to everybody at this tier. Thank you so much.
Wait till you get on the podcast and have to say that. We have to like do it in a wave now.
We do a wave now, yeah.
Yeah.
Kyle
like,
starts.
Shout out. Just prep for
You
it.
can't steal it. It's good. I know you want to.
I don't want to steal it.
You want to destroy it?
No, we have to. Now we have to do a new thing. We can't. Like,
I think it's fun just saying shout out after everyone.
This was a like a reverent shout out after every name, and I enjoyed that as well.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Okay. All right, Kyle. I see what you're
Greg the
doing.
Dark Knight Kettering. Shout out.
Shout out.
I see what you're doing. All right.
It's a call and response. I dig it.
Back to the games.
He's got to break out.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brandon. That's actually like the number one thing that I forget on the show. It's like the number one mistake that I've made. I've had so many episodes where like I just move on and I forget.
Well,
the
Kyle
breakout.
created a bit on the podcast where if he didn't close the bets after, he's like, "Oh, let me close it." Sometimes he would forget to do it, and then in one podcast afterwards, he was like, corrections. They pointed out that I forgot to do it, so the bets got loose. Mm-hmm. And then he forgot to do it again, and on the next one, he was like, "Oh, so," and I'm like, "Kyle, the bets got loose," and I could tell he was like, "Oh, you're gonna make me live up to that bit." I was like, "Yes, I am." You came up with the dumb close thing, and so you make me cut this show. I'm gonna call you out on it every time.
There should be a thing where, and I just haven't thought of it yet, where if we don't break out, like there's some sort of punishment or something. Haven't thought of it. Keep it in the back burner.
I will.
But you saved my life.
Yes.
So you can break.
I'm going to save your life again because a massive Star Destroyer is coming at us, and I'm going to grab that Star Destroyer out of the sky and crash it to the earth.
Do it again.
Okay.
This is hilarious.
All right. Because he's got to turn. He does the lightsaber upside down. The Force.
Right.
The
that's
Vader's
right.
apprentice.
Star
Brandon,
Killer.
This is like uncanny that is specifically what you wanted to do. Because one of the games that I'm talking about is Star Wars Force Unleashed.
Yeah, baby.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there are a
One
lot
of the legends.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah.
There are a lot of Star Wars games that I've been playing, and I could talk about any of them. Really, they're all worth talking about. But the reason I want to talk about Star Wars: The Force Unleashed is kind of my tumultuous history with this game. I've tried to like Force Unleashed like forever. Like there have been multiple times where I'm like, I kind of want to play Force Unleashed, and I'll give it a try, and I'm just like, no, I can't stand this. And I think it was just I never got into a rhythm with how you manipulate the Force. It just like obviously there's a looseness to it because of what the system wants you to do, where it's like, hey, grab almost anything and fling it. But it just like the lack of precision was frustrating to me, and I don't know why, because I'm playing it now and like I love it. It's not great. I'm not going to sit here and say,
dude,
like,
that was a swimming in sevens back in the day.
But it is like a swimming in sevens that, like, it is like the chicken noodle soup of sevens.
It was trending yesterday.
What?
Yeah. It was trending because Major Nelson said, reply to this and you'll get a free copy of Fallen Order or free Xbox One or something. And he said, reply to this with your favorite Star Wars game and favorite Star Wars movie. And there was an alarming amount of Force Unleashed 2.
Ew!
Yeah. A lot of people.
Have you played Force Unleashed 2?
I have played the demo for Force Unleashed 2.
I never touched Force Unleashed 2 because people
Dude,
Yes,
so boring.
I am aware of this
shoved
reaction.
me to the floor when I even mentioned it. It was like, all right, whoa, okay.
Okay.
When
I'm
Michael
try to play
Huber
Force
tells you a
Unleashed 2.
game is awful, don't play that game.
That kind of makes me want to play it more.
Which is why I wanted to check it out,
two
just so I would
games
know.
I could think of that Huber's told me that in my life. One is Force Unleashed 2. The other is the Thief reboot. It was on sale one time for $5, and I was like, "Hey Huber, is this worth it?" And he goes, "No." I was like, "Oh my god!"
I would love to revisit the Thief reboot, but I think Huber and I pretty much had the exact same response to it, and this was before we met each other. Like, one of the most boring games I've ever played. Just like lacked any vitality to it. It was weird. Anyway, Force Unleashed. I want to play Force Unleashed. Force Unleashed 2 is only like 5 hours.
Just play it, man.
Even if it's terrible.
Just
like,
play
I
it.
gotta
Yeah,
see what they do.
It's your time.
So Force Unleashed 1, I have this like newfound respect for it now because like you have the Jedi Knight games that have their take on what the Force is, how you use it in an action game, lightsaber combat, and the interplay between lightsaber combat and guns, and fantastic. And then you have things like Knights of the Old Republic, which are more RPGs, and now you've got Fallen Order, which is obviously taking cues from other games. But the Force Unleashed is so interesting because, like, yeah, you can use a lightsaber in that game, and it's useful. I'm not saying it's not useful, but the primary way you're interacting with everything and the way that you can do crazy damage and combos and stuff is by using the Force. And just this game is so old. This game is like 11 years old. And it's still really impressive, the scale of destruction that you get. Like, they just went for it in a way that, like, even today, games do not go for. Even in the opening level, playing as Darth Vader on Kashyyyk and, like, blowing apart those trees and everything. Like, it's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, the Force is, like, out of control in that game, I remember.
It is out of control.
I was like, good God, I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah. And it's really fun. The levels are extremely linear, but it works to the game's benefit because you just want these playgrounds where using your powers is fun and useful, and so you kind of need open but contained spaces for that to work. And they do a really good job of that. And the other thing that they do a really good job of that I really didn't appreciate before is the upgrades that you can get are really useful, and I wish they were more explicit about this. Like the system that they use could have been better, but they're like, hey, if you kill enemies more creatively, you'll get more experience, which will lead to more upgrades. Which I always think is a good idea. They don't really go into detail about how that works. They just have like names for it, like lightning grenade, and you're like, cool. Was that creative? Like you don't really get a good sense for it. But the upgrades that you get can be extremely useful. So you can like have this lightning lightsaber that's really good. You can get these different combos that are really good. Like the actual arsenal of things that you get is really useful. And the boss fights so far have been better than I've expected. Like there have been boss fights where it's like, oh, I need to use this thing in this way. Like if I just try to match my way through it or abuse the Force, like it won't work. Like the boss has defenses against that make it work. And I really appreciate the story that they're trying to tell with Vader's apprentice.
The story was my favorite thing.
Secret apprentice.
Actually, I was surprised actually by what they did. I was a little, not necessarily like bummed that they retconned it later, but I was like, they got me.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was going to go somewhere. And spoilers. I don't want to get into the details of because it was really near the end that
You hunt Jedi.
You do.
Yes.
That's what you do.
Okay, so I actually, this is for a long time. Like I said, like I tried to get into Force Unleashed before, and I always thought Starkiller was so lame. There was just something about him that rubbed me the wrong way. It felt like a character that was trying too hard. But I really don't feel that way anymore. Like I feel like my
Deacon, dude.
My opinion,
Hell yeah.
My opinion has completely flipped.
And Darth Maul, dude.
Where I have like I don't think he's like this amazing character.
Sure.
But I have a new appreciation for him in a way that I didn't when I was younger and in the
Yeah, it
past.
sounds like you're playing this game. You're like, oh, this is better than I expected.
Yes, exactly. It is exactly that sensation. And it's the interaction, some of the interactions between him and Vader, Brandon, I don't know if you remember, but they are hilarious because like the whole, you're hunting Jedi, you do it multiple times. And he's like, Darth Vader is like, you are going to get obliterated. You are not strong. You are going to die. If you make it back, great, you'll fulfill your destiny. But like, he's just such an asshole to Starkiller. He's like, you were going to die. And then you go, you destroy that Jedi, you come back, and he's like, okay, they were nothing. And he like make fun of them. It's like those two, they were trash. This next one, now you're going to die. And it's just like this. And Starkiller, all he wants to do is appease his master. And it's just a very funny thing. The droid is pretty good. Proxy really wants to kill
I don't remember a droid.
Starkiller. Yeah, Proxy's weird because he really wants to kill Starkiller, and he like projects, kind of turns into different people, and so he'll look like Darth Vader. He'll give Starkiller a message, and he'll be like, "Oh," and he'll turn back into the droid.
Oh, interesting.
Changeling.
Yeah. But it's just one of those games, and I think maybe it's the time of year where like, okay, the year's winding down, I'm getting into Star Wars, I'm just looking to have some fun. And I think if you're in that mentality where it's just like, I just want to like laugh at dudes ragdolling all over the place, if that is the state of mind that you're in, I can recommend Force Unleashed. We're going to do something on Frame Trip that I don't think we've ever done before. Oh, Huber might have.
Keep me posted on when you play 2.
Yeah, I want to play 2. I don't know if I'll go right from 1 into 2. I might. We'll see.
Let me know.
But
let me know how it goes.
Also, and this almost never happens, but I was actually playing the PC version of Force Unleashed, which playing it through the Origin Access thing, and you get the Ultimate Sith Edition, which is nice because you get all the DLC.
Oh, yeah, you get
all
like
the
that outfit. Yeah, I remember that
sick
nice. Outfit. Yeah,
but it actually looks much better playing it on the Xbox One X. So I actually just restarted.
Whoa.
And I don't, on that version of the game, I don't have all the extra stuff, which is a bit disappointing. But I actually would say in this specific instance, I much prefer playing it on the One X than
Good
the Xbox.
Good reporting.
Yeah.
Xbox.
It was funny because in addition to it looking much better, what was the driving force for restarting it is I was like, oh, Abby and I, we just finished Fallen Order. We're kind of looking for a new game to play. I was like, oh, let's try Force Unleashed. And like, I'm just sitting there like throwing dudes with the Force and being like, ha. And she's like, this is so boring. Like, I can't, like the story's kind of cool, but like I can't keep watching you do this. So it was really interesting. I have one more thing to talk about on this Frame Trap. As far as games go. But I feel like I've been talking a lot. The way that I've structured this podcast, this back half, has been kind of just me going on about things. So I'm going to call an audible. If either of you would like to throw in a wild card, like Brandon, you were saying, that hour of Super Metroid, anything that you got.
Oh, dude, I'd love to hear Brandon talk about Super Metroid.
Well, it doesn't have to be that. I'm just saying it as an example.
No, I'm just kidding.
It was funny. You brought up Galaxy of Heroes, earlier, and I was like, oh, God.
No, do you want? We could
years.
talk about Galaxy of Heroes.
Just why I love that game so much.
Oh man,
Yes.
I can't escape the game, dude. It's at home. It's
I know.
haunting me at home now. It worked even
Wait,
more.
what is haunting you at home?
Chris plays this game all the time, dude.
Brandon,
all the time.
It kind of sucks you in.
I
know.
brought her into the Easy
it, like-
Allies Guild.
I don't even know how it happened. I was just like, I'm into Star Wars. I'm gonna look for Star Wars games on the App Store. I know Brandon really likes Galaxy of Heroes. I download Galaxy of Heroes. And then now I'm just playing it all the time.
It's because of the
Why
characters, man. Because it's like I look at it, I'm like, oh, this looks dumb. And then she's got like all the rebel crew. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
Zeb?
Well, it's that.
tight.
And
She got
Brandon,
Chopper.
I don't know if you agree with this, but like, there's no the classic fucking mobile thing. There's always like the carrot is always like right in front of your face.
Oh, of course, yeah.
You are always getting something
And
or
for
unlocking
me-
a new type of battle.
For
or whatever.
me, where I am right now is the major carrot, the massive carrot. Actually, the even carrot beyond that is Commander Anakin Skywalker. So there's like Jedi Anakin Skywalker, no little kid Anakin Skywalker. It's funny that there's still like some major characters. No Mandalorian, blown away. If they didn't add him.
Give it time.
But he's like the one that even like the top guys in my guild are like, forget about it, man. That is ridiculous. It was ridiculous the stuff that you have to do. To
tell
get him.
me about this guild. Tell me about these hardcore Galaxy
Yeah,
of
let's
Heroes
get it.
players. Tell me about the guild.
Well, it's
Full
tough.
guild.
We actually, I
Full.
mean, this is a funny story because I've never been a guild leader. I've never like taken a guild. I remember Huber started a guild for the Marvel game
one,
and then
yeah.
bailed like 2 weeks later. I
Classic
played more
Huber.
of Marvel than he did. And I was like, oh, are we not playing? All right, I feel sorry for this guild. I wonder if they're still going. And shout out to my guild. I mean, anybody in my guild is watching because it's tough. Some names I recognize.
Does the guild have a name? Is it Easy Allies?
Easy Allies, yeah. And some names I recognize, and some people I'm like, I'm not even sure if you watch any of the stuff that we do. You know, it's like our description is like a relatively casual guild that raids often with a little love and respect. You
Yeah.
know, so it's like, and we were locked now because I locked it so I can invite Kristen. But there's a 50 cap, and we got back up to 50, but we had a mass exodus at Easy Allies because we had a lot of really powerful guys in the guild that I didn't like, shop for. I didn't go out there and try to scout these guys. We just, I think we got a heavy hitter, and then his friends maybe came in and were like, oh, these guys are cool. And then saw that there was a massive discrepancy between, we had like, about 10 really powerful guys, and then just didn't really have like a super beefy, guild because we didn't really, I think our major thing was if you haven't played in like a month, like we got to boot you to make.
I think that's standard.
And it's
guild
not
operating
even to make room for people that
Yeah.
we want to like do the really big important things, but just to make room for people that want to play. They want to maybe you in the guild, or people that reach out to me like on Twitter or something, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know your guild. I'd love to get in it." And so there's that like a bottom 10 players that will come and go. Somebody will jump in and then leave 5 days later because they're just like, I want to see if I can find a better guild. But I don't start the raids. I don't we have excellent officers. Shout out to my officers who like manage a lot of that stuff.
Dude, is Brennan like forming the empire?
That's
what it
awesome,
sounds
dude.
like.
I don't do much. I just control everything.
Yeah.
We believe in centralized power.
But one dude took off and just a bunch of people left. I think left with him to go to another
Sure.
guild.
Start their own.
Dude, Brendan, you're sitting here telling me about like Galaxy of Heroes drama, and it's amazing that this conversation exists.
Because I've just never experienced that before. I didn't even like when I raided hardcore in Wrath of the Lich King. I was not the guild leader,
Right.
and I missed plenty of attempts at raids that we would do because it wasn't just. Oh, we're gonna go do this one dungeon. It's like we did. Ulduar was like a month. It was just
Yeah, it took a
nonstop.
long
2
time.
months. We just kept going back and back and back and slowly itching our way forward. So if like I missed something, I already did that boss fight 5 times. I'm not gonna miss any like story beats. Or if you move on to the next boss, I'll see him the week after. And so it's interesting because there is difficulty to it, and you can definitely recognize good versus bad players. But it's been fascinating to me to kind of mitigate my expectations of what I should get in this guild. 3 of actually the most sought out characters that like you apparently just need to get are all from KOTOR. It's Dark Knight Revan and Light Revan, and Bastila Shan has like this ability where she just like gives everybody defense, and you just can't. If her and Jedi Yoda are on the same team, forget it. Like when I go through and cycle, like when I'm just doing like the arena, when I'm actually playing against other teams, not live, but like there's their established teams. If I see those two together, it's just like forget it. Like there's no.
So you don't have
There's
these
no
characters.
point. No, because what I chose to do and how I've leveled up in that game and why I'm like satisfied with my progress is like I had a clear goal for how I wanted to play this game. And if I was to try to go get Revan, I would have to drop everything. I had literally all my other teams would suck, but I got Revan, and I was like, no, I want to have my Rebel team be really good, not just the Red Bulls team of the Phoenix Squad, but like I have a team that's Biggs, Wedge, Leia, Han, and Lando, and I love it, and like, yeah, I could maybe throw in another person on that team that's really good, but like I just love seeing the 5 of them kick ass, and they all have guns, and so they're all like mostly just pew 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 pew. It's like I think Biggs has one thing where like when he fires, like all the rebels fire. Dude, one of the funniest things to watch is the clone troopers also have that. So I have like all the guys from Clone Wars.
Oh, okay.
And when the Geonosians have the same kind of ability, they added this Geonosian guy, so you can have like 5 Geonosians in a group now. And like when you do 4-time battle and hit auto battle, it just when you turn up the sound effects, it's like it's so funny because they all just when that guy attacks, everybody attacks, and then when that guy attacks, everybody attacks. So even when the Geonosians kick my ass, it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
Brandon, I know that this is probably going to sound pedestrian to you at this point, at 4 years into Galaxy of Heroes, but that's
4 years.
That's something that I like in the
it
early.
Just had the anniversary event, which is why I know exactly like 4 years.
In the early goings of Galaxy of Heroes, something that I actually think is cool and was a smart decision is you start with light side battles, but you unlock a bunch of characters, and it's like, well, okay, in this mode you can use whoever you want. In light side battles, you can only use light side characters, and then in dark side, you can only use dark side characters, and you have to train them using these resources. And it's like, oh, well, what do I want? What am I trying to accomplish? And it's like the battles themselves so far are not that complex, but I love making those decisions. Like it's just enough to keep it interesting.
And even now, knowing the complexity, I don't stress myself out a lot for a lot of these battles. Apologies, to my guild members. Like I could return higher numbers if I really like put in the effort. Because I play this every day. It's like, man, I'm not going to do an hour of hardcore strategizing battles every single day. Like, I will sign in, I will get those credits, I will contribute to my guild.
It's
we do raids, I will
even
sign up for them.
Yeah.
Like, because I can't see that yet.
I'll hear the strategy sometimes that they talk about it, and it's like, it's just a lot of like, stop doing that. Like, there's some tricks, like the Night Sisters are fun, like those old Daka. Like, and I saw Daka before I watched Clone Wars. I was like, who is she? And then when I got to that episode, I'm like, oh yeah, Daka. There was one like this gal with blades that's next to Daka in the Clone Wars that gets like 2 episodes, but I'm like, I know who that is. I remember when I saw Rogue One, I was like, Bastan, and it's like I only know him because he's in Galaxy of Heroes. Which is, again, why it's weird that they didn't kind of preempt Rise of Skywalker and Mandalorian and some of this other stuff. But there's a zombie, a Night Sister zombie that if you play Fallen Order, you'll be familiar with, that when the Night Sister zombie dies, it comes right back. And at the beginning of every turn the Night Sister zombie has, it taunts.
Zombie chow.
You cannot kill this thing. And Daka... When Daka heals, she'll heal the whole group and has a chance to just bring someone back. So Night Sister group is just like, die, damn you, and like, so you have to strategy. You have to have someone in that's like, stop, or you have to have like Qui-Gon has an ability that's like, no, you're not taunting anymore, and like Obi-Wan, the old Obi-Wan has an ability where he does the mind trick, where he's like, you cannot do special abilities. Stop. You can only do your basic attacks, and so like they have little bits like that. R2 has an ability where you pick one person and everyone else just vanishes, and so you can only target that one person.
Oh, okay.
So. Brandon, 2 things. First thing, you are geeking out right now.
I love it.
I know you do. I feel like by talking about Galaxy of Heroes on this podcast, I have given you a Christmas gift. Like, here you go.
He's been waiting 4 years to talk about this.
No, I mean this.
I thought about it even doing like an editorial on Cup of Jones. Yeah. And it's like, no, nobody's gonna watch that.
No, this is great. Your enthusiasm for it is infectious.
Yeah.
It's really fun to watch. The other thing, on a less gracious note, that I got to call you up for, that was a subtle joint spoiler, and I'm not mad. But what you said about Fallen Order, I was thinking about it, and I was like, I wouldn't want to know that if I hadn't played that game.
Sorry. It's a character.
See, this is why you're a brand manager. You don't even. You got to think about that. You got to think about
the old. You snooze, you lose.
Twisted pleasure there.
One final thing. We'll wrap it up. One final thing that I like though. is what I think they do really well in Galaxy of Heroes is, and I don't know if they do this because I know you play a lot of Fire Emblem, and so I wonder how those two games intersect because it's a lot of the same thing. Characters I recognize, worlds clashing. You know, these two characters have never actually fought before, but it's neat to get them together. It's fun to have like Darth Sidious and Darth Vader and Kylo Ren on the same team. You know, it's neat to have the Emperor and Sidious next to each other. It's I specifically like put Darth Maul and his brother from Clone Wars, Savage Opress, like on a team.
Dude, I love your RPing of Galaxy of Heroes.
And it's like these guys aren't dynamically don't really work well together, but it's like, I don't care. It's just fun to watch them fight.
I think it's neat that the game, and like you mentioned Fire Emblem, you can compare extremely broad things about them, but obviously Galaxy of Heroes, one crucial component is you don't have a map where you have to position or anything. Like you're just locked in battle. But something that I do think is interesting, and I just don't have enough units to really explore yet, but I think is cool in terms of strategy, is there are some abilities where it's like, hey, it'll do this thing, but if you have these other guys, it'll have this other effect.
Yeah.
And that is really cool. Like, that's an interesting decision of just team composition.
Some characters have leader abilities and others don't. So if you put that in that first slot on a team, so like I have my strongest team is a Jedi team, and Yoda's like the leader of that team. So like I like his leader ability that he gives everybody else. And even that is just fun to like have like Mace Windu and Old Ben like on the same team together. But what I really like is they have events that'll come up where you'll get really nice bonuses, but only nice bonuses if you have specific types of players or specific types of teams. And so again, it's just matching your expectations. Like you don't have to get these bonuses. You don't have to play that event. You just skip it, whatever, move on. Like there's plenty of that game that I skip on purpose, but it incentivizes you to invest in that team. You see the goal, you see the benefit of having a strong squad. They added Thrawn to the game, and that event is the Phoenix Squad. Ooh. You gotta have all of them built up.
I went on,
and there's 6 of them, so you can't have all of the Phoenix Squad on the Phoenix Squad team. You got to make that call. And I read a whole thread on the official thing that basically said Sabine versus Chopper. It's you need everybody else. It's basically that call. Whether you want him to tank or whether you want her abilities. Sabine's harder to farm and get, but Chopper's not that. You know, he's like, I prefer Sabine. So I moved Chopper to my droid team, put Sabine on there. And it's just neat every time that Thrawn event comes up. It's like, damn it, I unlocked Chewie, but I don't have him like just classic Chewbacca, but I don't have him at the highest level because my bounty hunter team is you know, so it's like I look at the squads, my whole list of how everybody's organized, and it's like, what do I want to work on right now?
I do think that is something on one hand it's kind of cool and appreciable. On one hand, it's like, this feels insidious, where not only do you have a ridiculous number of characters, but you have multiple versions of the characters, and so you'll get a character and it's like, that's not the way that I prefer them.
Yeah.
And I feel like that can be a little bit frustrating. Like, it's neat that they get different abilities and they can serve different purposes, but it can be frustrating.
I think it's frustrating if it's like clearly the thing that everyone is going to do and that should be the best thing. Where like I have a really solid Empire team. You know, I got the Emperor as the leader, and Vader, and then the Red Emperor Guard, who's actually a pretty decent tank, and then Moff Tarkin, and then like the guy who's also in Last Crusade who blows up the shield generator in Hoth, and so he's like my 5th. It's like, okay, he's not great. I'm not gonna put a ton of effort into him, but of all the Empire squads I fought against that really gave me a hard time, that slot is Thrawn. They're like, that you need Thrawn for him, and then he just makes the whole thing click. You don't like need him, and the Empire teams really don't. There's not a ton that you really need them for to unlock new stuff. But I like when those things come up where they're like, now you use Ewoks, and it's like, oh, my Ewoks team's actually pretty good. They're like, oh, fun. I'm looking forward to that event because I can do that. And literally for like half this year, I've been building up both Bosk and Jango Fett to like finally make that bounty hunter team good, finally kick ass on that Chewbacca event. And one thing that they changed is some of those events that used to be like seasonal things, like you had to wait and to when it came back around to use your Ewoks to get C-3PO. Now a lot of those you can just do anytime you want, which was a nice give.
Maybe the two of you can help me with this. So Bosk, like I am familiar with the character, but sometimes I'm surprised at the prominence given to him. Like he's a hero in Battlefront 2, and I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Like
all those bounty hunters. Man.
I'm not like necessarily against it, but does Bosk have more relevance in extended universe stuff, or is he just a character?
He gets more shine in Clone Wars.
Okay. So I just haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, he's in it.
Yeah.
Okay, but is he in it in like a good way?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Like he's not the lead, but he's there.
Okay.
And like he's impactful.
Well, we'll keep going on Clone Wars.
Keep
then.
on trucking.
We'll keep on trucking.
He's a good tank.
Yeah. Just a cool Dino Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he looks cool.
Yeah, he looks awesome.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. I just was like, I just thought it
I
was
want to be
interesting.
Bosk in Battlefront. That sounds sick.
Apparently, Bosk, at least at one point,
Was OP?
Yeah.
They probably nerfed him.
Of all the characters, I'm tempted to play BB-8.
Dude, BB-8,
Dude, he's a character.
Yeah.
That's so sick.
BB-8 next month. He's not in yet. He's
Oh,
not in yet.
dude, let's
I know.
play.
BB-8 next month.
I know.
I have it, dude.
Could we do
I
just
have
a
it.
really stupid like Battlefront 2 stream where
Oh,
we just
dude.
Yeah.
I'm in. I got it.
Oh boy.
You know who's like, I mean, it makes sense, but like is so stupidly strong that when I'm playing him, like really, you gave him like all this stuff? Fucking Anakin Skywalker.
Oh, sure.
Just a terror.
The chosen
Holy
one.
shit. Anyway,
Too old.
Moving
too old.
on. Last thing that I really want to touch on really quick. Don't have too much to say, but I thought it was cool, and just like maybe another, like, hey, check this game out. It's great, especially right now. Path of Exile. So Path of Exile
Cool.
just launched out with a big new update, Conquerors of the Atlas. And I can't really speak about a large chunk of Conquerors of the Atlas because it's in-game stuff and I'm not there yet. But
Is
maybe
this
at some point we
the
can
final
talk about it.
patch before 2?
No.
Okay.
No. But every 3 months they have a new league, and this new league is called the Metamorph League, and I think you guys would
What?
get a kick out of this. I'm actually appreciating it more from like a character perspective, and just an idea perspective. It's pretty twisted and fun and cool. Like doesn't feel like that crazy from a mechanical perspective, but the idea of it is fun. So you meet this guy, and he's in this suit, and he's just like, we need to. His lore is like pretty fun. He's like, we need to figure out the essence of being. Like, what makes us us? And he's like, I think there's something like dark and twisted under there. And also, like, I came from this like abusive master who would lead me around, and in public would be really nice, but in private he'd be really dark. And so like I'm convinced that like the essence of all living things is pretty messed up. So what I'm going to have you do, adventurer, is I'm going to have you go and you will fight these monsters, and special monsters will be marked on your mini-map, and if you kill them, you'll get a body part. So it'll be like an eye or lungs or brain or whatever, and it'll have this vat. And what you can do is you will pick from all these body parts that you collected, and you have to pick 5 body parts, and you have to assemble a creature. And that's just a cool idea out the
Yeah,
gate.
that is cool.
It's just a cool idea, but what's
Simon's Quest.
neat is different body parts that you pick will add different modifiers. So it's like, well, if you give him this, he will be undead. Or if you give him this, he'll do cold attacks.
Don't call me Mom Mouse.
Yeah, or he'll have like charge or whatever. But then you'll get things where it's like, hey, if you put this thing in, like it'll be harder, but you'll get additional, items or currency or something. And so you're like, oh, cool. And so you can just like try to make it as difficult as you want, and you could see like on the side, like this is how much damage it'll do. And then it's fun because you'll just throw all these body parts in, and you're like, I don't know what's going to come out. And even early on in the campaign, it's like, okay, I'm just doing this league. I've got this fresh character. I'm not very far yet. It's still this exciting new element where it's like, okay, I'm doing this. I don't know what's going to come out of this vat. I don't know what kind of attacks they're going to do. And so it's this nice, unpredictable element. It's similar to other League things that they've done in the past on a most basic level, but it's still fun. I think the lore behind it is fun. It's cool, like early on, doing these fights and then killing them and being like, wow, you dropped really good stuff. It's just another addition that adds variance and I think some excitement in a game that has been doing that for like 6 years. And it's cool. It's just like completely free. Like you can just go and have an experience that a lot of people are having for free, make a League character, have fun. Yeah, it's just awesome. I just really like it. I think they did a good job.
Right on.
How long does it take to like get up to that level if I'm just jumping in and like I haven't played any of that?
So that's something that I actually really like. Not just with this new Metamorph stuff, but like a lot of stuff that they've added in the past, it does not take long to get to. It's not immediate. It's not like you're getting it right off the bat, but a lot of the stuff that they've added in the game, not everything, you get pretty quickly. And so it's not like, oh, I have to get to level 60 to experience all this stuff. Like the beast hunting stuff, the silver coin stuff, the metamorph stuff, the deviling stuff, like you get it at a pretty even clip, especially this metamorph stuff. Like you run into this guy pretty quickly. And so like within an hour, you can get to him, I think. Something like that. It does not take very long at all. So I like that. The other thing that I think is really cool is, and it was just, again, we're talking about like usability and making things easily accessible, is he will just pop up when you have enough stuff to make something. Like you'll be adventuring along and like you don't even have to think about it. It's just like, oh, he popped up, I guess I have enough stuff, and then you just do it. And so there's this smoothness.
So you can just make it wherever?
Yeah, you just make it wherever. And he's like, he's in town and stuff, but he will just appear.
Hey.
And be like, hey man, you want to make a weird creature? And then there's also a button that you just have on your HUD to summon him.
Cool.
Like whenever you want. And so I think that is really the key about this Metamorph League stuff, is it's just right there. The thing I don't like about Path of Exile, and it's really a compliment, is like it's just so easy to get sucked in.
Yeah,
it's like,
you're just still playing.
Yeah.
So I'm scared. I'm scared of Warframe.
Yeah.
Every time they have a new Warframe trailer,
Yeah.
I'm like, no Warframe, no.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah, I haven't had Warframe completely suck me into the abyss yet, but every time it's really fun.
Yeah.
Brandon, if you play Warframe, let me know.
It looks super, super fun.
Also play Path of Exile. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, even with Battlefront 2, which we didn't talk about, but I've been playing that a little bit, and it's like, holy shit, like this game is completely transformed.
Yeah.
Dude, Bled and I both checked out Stadia just to talk about it after like checking it out for a week. And we was like, I'll play that. I already played Red Dead. I'm like, I'll do online. And he was like, you play Destiny. I don't know. Bled just like handed Destiny 2 off. So I like booted up Destiny, and like that first new light piece I got, it was like, oh damn.
No. Yeah.
No.
Right.
No.
Right.
But yes, also.
It's like a skeletal hand like coming out of the ground and grabbing you, which is its own bag of tricks that we can get into. But I do think it's cool that I can get on here and like I talked about Path of Exile before, but I can get on here and it's like, here's all of this brand new stuff in this game. I don't know. I like that.
Before you move on to questions, Ben, I just want to say you're absolutely right. I apologize. I'm on a Star Wars high right now. I feel free to bleep that spoiler that I made earlier. Feel free to just
Brandon, it's not
just
that big of a deal.
Okay.
I was just.
But if you're in the edit and you feel about it later and you all of a sudden I get quieter and you're like, what the hell was that? Why did that happen to Jones? I give you the force powers to silence me.
I don't think it's that big of a deal.
I don't think it's that
clearly
big of a deal.
don't, because I said it. But
I just
get excited.
I was just giving you shit, Brandon.
And especially too, if you just are unfamiliar with some of these other things, like Galaxy Affairs might kind of point you in that direction and be like, well, what was that character from? It's like, oh, well, that's a Rebels guy.
I really like
this
that.
Thrawn. Who's that? Like, maybe you should play TIE Fighter.
And I have to say, like, this is something where it's like, I know I'm being played. I know this is like,
oh yeah, welcome to mobile, baby.
No, yeah, I know this is the whole part of their grand plan, and that they have me right where I want them. But that is actually something that I'm appreciating about Star Wars. Is I'll have these questions. I'll be like, I wonder if there's more information on this, and they'll be like, oh, there's a whole book on it.
There is,
and that's exactly what they want. And it's kind of evil.
Ben, I didn't tell you. I told this to Jones. Fortnite finally got me.
Because of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Fortnite got you.
I bought Kylo Ren.
You bought him?
Yeah.
How much was it?
I didn't even buy Batman, dude.
Well, you can only... So, I hate Fortnite because you have to, like, buy the tokens, like, for... you get this amount.
Right,
I couldn't just buy it right out. So, I spent $25 because I was like, dude, I can get, like, 2 skins at least, though.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I've been waiting years...
Sith Trooper or Rey?
I'll probably get the Sith Trooper because Kristen got Rey, so I'll probably get the Sith Trooper.
Go.
Yeah.
Boom.
But it's just like, man, I haven't bought a skin in Fortnite ever. Like, I've been waiting for the right one, and it finally came. I was like, well, here we go. They finally got me. You sons of bitches.
I feel you, man, because I really like Kylo Ren a lot, so I get it. Also, I kind of want to check out this new Star Wars stuff in Fortnite. So if you,
I'll do some drops. We can drop.
But you were speaking about stuff that is unfamiliar to you. I think the thing that is most unfamiliar to me isn't it? HOTTAKE! Today we are talking about 2020, and
oh my god,
it's really easy to make HOTTAKE is about next gen and 2020 because they're both crazy, and I know we've already done that already. But when I actually was writing out this HOTTAKE and literally listing things out, I was like, oh, next year is more insane than even I had realized. Like when I had it all collected and staring at it at once, I was blown away. And I thought we would have some fun. This is like a pre-holiday episode of Frame Trap. So we're going to have some fun. It's going to be more lighthearted. It's not going to be like rah-rah, raise your pitchforks, HOTTAKE. We're going to talk about some of the biggest games of next year. We're not going to talk about everything. So just know that going in. I know that we didn't talk about X, Y, or Z. It was intentional. We're going to talk about some of the biggest games next year, and I broke them down into 3 categories.
Oh, cool.
I want to talk, and some of these are going to be brief, some of these might be a little bit more contentious, but I want to know what you think the critical response is. You don't have to name like a Metacritic score or whatever, but just in general, what you think the critical response will be, what you think the audience response will be or fan response, and then if it will have an impact on the end of the year, and if it will be remembered, if it will have a presence by and large in a general sense for Game of the Year. And it doesn't just have to be ours, but, take in other outlets as well. So we're going to start. I might bounce around because we have a lot of heavy hitters up front, but I'm going to start with an obvious heavy hitter. I'm going to talk about Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah.
Critically, how do you think this game is going to be received, especially with the legacy?
Good.
Oh, yeah.
Good. I'll see, I'm going to throw a Metacritic thing, 80s. Somewhere in the 80s.
So you don't think it's going to break that 90 threshold?
No.
Brandon, do you agree with that?
Sure. Because I think the number one critique you're going to see is it ended too soon.
Yeah.
It was frustrating.
Well,
That's
the first game
it was frustrating to play.
Why is it parts?
What in my head is this massive story, and even for newcomers, is clearly this massive story, and then just boom to have it stop. Because I think you kind of anticipate that with Telltale, Life is Strange, these other games that are episodic, because they'll have, we wrote this story to be in these segments where they kind of had to change the story to just suddenly stop.
Right.
You get to a glimpse of this beautiful open world that you want to go, or just this world that you want to go see. And wait a couple years.
Do you also think, and I mean, not to bring up Star Wars again, but I do think that part of the difficulty of Star Wars and doing the sequel trilogy is like with taking old characters, a lot of the audience is like, wait a minute, like they're not like that. Do you think that could happen with Final Fantasy VII Remake, where you see some of these characters and it's like, they're not like that?
You can speak to that more than I can, I think.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, like the old game, was like a lot of it was up to your imagination, just based on the tech and like the writing of it. I think you'll get a much more clear idea of the character themselves. Like even the brief that they showed of like Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge, like the most character they've ever had. You can get that vibe from them.
But it felt right.
Yeah, because I've seen like the behind the closed doors demos where it's just them talking. I get a much greater sense of what kind of character they are compared to they used to be. Like even Cloud, I feel like in that new trailer they show like a little smirk on his face. Like that's a little more Cloud than we got to see in the original.
Sure.
And it is like it's a reimagining of the original, so I think it's a little more flexible instead of having like building off like what's there and continuing what was there, but like they're taking inspiration from what was there but adding their own twist to it.
Do you think Final Fantasy VII Remake will be a significant presence when it comes to end of the year discussions?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so too. I do. The only, and this is just like off the cuff speculation. This 2020 has so much going on that I think. I feel like this is kind of happening with Resident Evil 2, where because it is a remake, it is maybe not being given as much
attention
value as fully original things. I could maybe see that happening.
The only thing I would say is like, to me, this is like seen as a bigger deal. No, not Sly and RE2 at all, but like just the buildup of this game.
Well, there's been
in the anticipation of it.
And the other thing
Point,
too,
Brad.
and this is just how I perceive your categories. It's not necessarily the game of the year, but it's like best soundtrack. I see this coming at hard.
Right.
Best role playing game. Look out.
Right. It's not fighting to be part of the conversation, I guess. Is a way to interpret that category. All right. So let's bounce around to one that maybe doesn't have the same heat behind it. Dying Light 2.
It'll be really solid.
What do you think the critical response will be?
Positive.
Yeah. I think people will be satisfied with it. I think this is...
I can see a lot of like 8s.
Sure. I think this will be... interesting because there's a lot of decisions, you know, that you have to make. The world is going to change a lot more. That was kind of one of the things. The world is not something I fell in love with the first Dying Light.
Right.
And it's just, I always get excited when you have a developer that made something and then it's like, okay, wait, we learned so much from that, and we really want to come at this. It's showing up right at the end of the generation, and so they've had a lot of time. It's something that demoed very well both times that I saw it at E3. So I think it's just gonna be like a solid game. I could see the story being very stupid. I could see it getting repetitive a little bit. I could see. Just those two things. You know, I could just see you being presented with decisions that you're like, I'm excited to make that building blue more than I am to help whoever these weirdo people are. And I could just see you just like, God, the 20th time I got to ride down this pole to get over to this thing.
Yeah.
Brandon, I can see why you said all of those things. I do think Chris Avellone working on the project gives me hope for the story, that it will not be stupid. And I agree with a lot of what you said. Brad, I agree with your kind of like 8 response there with the critical response. I think this is a game that's going to catch a lot of people off guard. And I do get that sense with Dying Light 2, where it's like, we learned so much. So we're going to take that foundation that we built and really just go nuts in ways that I think people are going to care about it more than they expect to.
I'm heavily anticipating it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a dark horse.
I love first-person, you know, exploration, zombie survival. Like even like Dead Island. Like I loved Dead Island. You know, played it. You know, critically is a different conversation, but just like devoured that game. You know, DLCs like.
Dead Island was fun. It was janky as hell, but that was part of its charm. Yeah.
And just customizing the weapons and loved it.
Do you think it will have any impact in the end of the year?
I'd be surprised.
I'd be surprised too. Not necessarily. It's not even like a comment on its quality,
right?
But rather like it's just too much. There's too much stuff.
Well, I think Resident Evil is got a lot of cred this year because people love Resident Evil, not because people are like, yay, another zombie game. You know? So like, I just think it's unfortunately that kind of cursed a little bit because people are getting a little sick of that. Even Walking Dead is just bleeding viewers.
Yeah.
So.
Cyberpunk 2077.
Ding, 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 ding.
Gonna be big.
Yeah.
Gonna be big.
Everything. Yes to all your questions.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you say that, I agree with you. I think it's gonna be yes to all those questions. Everything that we've seen, like, I do think / hope that this game will be something special. I do believe that there will be some much kind of like there was with like Witcher 3, a lot of people are looking at it now as like, oh, this is one of the greatest games of all time. And I think in a lot of ways, deservedly so, Witcher 3 is very special, but it had a rough launch. I can see that happening with Cyberpunk 2077,
for sure.
where they need to go and clean some stuff up, just because it is so ambitious, just because you can
especially because
so
it's on current gen hardware.
I
think
criticism.
there will be some things to clean up.
About the story, because Geralt is such a strong protagonist.
Right.
Is so clearly defined narratively and by the previous games. Has a clear backstory. Even like when I was making relationship decisions in Witcher 3, where it was just like, hey, you want to get together? And I was like, we have a past together, don't we? And like, I don't know, because I didn't play the earlier games. And so, but I enjoyed, I could tell, like, okay, like that, I could feel the lore there that I just happen to be missing out on. Whereas you are creating your own character. So I could feel a lot of, that to me, Far Cry 5, that was one of the things that was kind of, there was like, hey, deputy. And I'm like, who am I? I'm literally an orb that holds a gun. I don't really feel like I'm a character in this world, or I have relationships with people. And I wonder if people can feel a little detached from it. And I also feels like one of those games where a lot of people are going to ask, what's this game trying to say? That it's. I feel like that city is more of a character than you, and so I wonder if it's going to take some weird political stances, or if people are going to make decisions that kind of point them or pull them in one direction, that they're just like, I actually finished that game and I didn't like what they had to say.
Yeah.
Like what is it? One class is like businessman or something, or
something like that.
Hello.
Yeah. that sounds fun.
The moment I saw they announced that, I was like, I will be picking that. And so I'm expecting it to just be meet, all sorts of terrible people and have to make all sorts of horrible decisions.
It's going to be a bad world.
Bankrupt businesses and just, poverty all over the place. And that's what I love about video games, because I can explore that without feeling guilty too much about those things. And I want to see how depraved I can possibly get, and just kind of exercise that and just get all of that, nasty vibes, off my chest.
I'm slightly... I wouldn't say, worried is too strong of a word, but for lack of a better word, worried about the hot takes. like, not because games shouldn't be taken to task for awful messages, but sometimes I think just like sometimes, especially with the way things are right now with Twitter and everything, sometimes it's just like people are so quick to pull the trigger that it's like, wait a minute, like I see why you pulled the trigger,
right?
And if taken at face value, that is really concerning, like all that stuff. But it's just like sometimes those quick fires really do miss the context and are not as fully formed as they could or should be.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, what you're saying, I get it, but it's missing all of this other stuff.
Of course,
especially
it's so
in
dense.
An open-ended RPG like
Imagine taking a screenshot with the subtitles on of one character saying something, and then you just take that and post it on Twitter, and everyone's like, "That character said what?" And it's like, come on, like,
right.
That's an 8-hour campaign that gets to that point, and I murdered the guy after he said that,
Right.
So it's like, yes, that's a horrible thing, but you need to have. You can't just make a bad person horrible because they kill people. It's
Right.
like you can't.
Yeah.
There has to be depths, especially in this world. It's all about business and trading and
Right.
Body modification and like they're dabbling in stuff that it's easy to feel distant from the world of The Witcher and just be like, whoa, don't want to live there, or like Westeros or just other fantasy worlds
Right.
that we're used to. Even something like Handmaid's Tale is kind of like, whoa, but like this is just a little closer to home, I think, in terms of
Sure.
just kind of scratching the surface of things that we are talking about. And also kind of having a trailer thing where it's like, hey, get on a motorcycle and shoot a gun, whatever. It's like, well, which one is it?
Right.
Are you making a statement? Are you trying to tell us how you want the future to be? Or is this just this like a true dystopia of like, oh boy.
Right. And I think that's going to be kind of the first thing to figure out is like, is there a statement here, or is it like, what statement do you want to make?
That's the vibe I'm getting
Right.
from it.
Right.
It's going to be
But
kind of
we'll
like,
see.
yeah.
But that's also kind of good. If I was a CD Projekt, it'd be like, we kind of want that a little bit. Like
Sure.
we want this to shake people up. We want people to kind of question the future.
I think this game's going to has mass appeal too. So people will be
Absolutely.
talking about it for a long time.
I mean, it's crazy to me that the reaction to Keanu Reeves is like
Yeah.
our highest or one of our highest performing videos, like over 1 million.
We only got a
views.
couple mils. And
Yeah.
that's
That's
a
it.
mill.
Yeah. What is our other mill? Is it
I don't remember
okay?
offhand. There was like all reactions.
As you can see, we don't do things for the views. We're just like, oh, that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Another game I want to talk about: Marvel's Avengers.
Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know a lot about this game.
I keep coming back to the fact that these are the people that made Tomb Raider. And
Yeah.
I loved that first Tomb Raider. And I was, loved the progression, loved some of the writing, loved the isolation, how I felt, loved just kicking a person's ass in that game. And was surprised. Like when that was over, I was like, whoa, that was nail biting in parts. That was really, something.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because I was, Lara Croft is, I hope they get back to the truest parts of her story. Like, she's a fascinating character and a heroine and someone who should be treated with reverence in this industry. But like, I wasn't calling upon my Tomb Raider 3 lore. It was just like, no, I like bow and arrows. I like adventure games. I'm curious what this is going to deliver. And I just think did well. It surprised me with tech, surprised me with doing things the way other games had, but doing it in just a very refined, fun, AAA way. And so it's like, ooh, this game did not do well coming out of the gate, and I'll give it the benefit of the doubt because I think just doing Avengers anything right now is a near impossible task.
Sure.
I think if you were to watch some Avengers animated direct-to-DVD thing, you would be like, oh, that was fun. You wouldn't be like, they look stupid, because your expectations are like a lot lower. Where this game was just teased for so long and then had this big coming out, and everyone's like, they look so stupid.
After
And
so many
well, of
like
course they
comic
were-
book
yeah.
games that have been great too, like
So-
Batman, Spider-Man.
Brandon, that statement that you said, I had to digest it a little bit. You were like, Lara Croft is a fascinating character, and I was like, like, I like Lara Croft. I think she's a cool character. I would even go as far as to say she's a good character, but is Lara Croft a fascinating character? I'm not sure.
Not to me.
I'd have to I think you can make
She's
a
fine.
case. I
Yeah,
really
sure.
do. I think you can make a case for it, but I'm not sure on that one. Yeah, I think I don't know how to feel about this game, dude. That initial response was so rough. But like you said, I do think Crystal Dynamics is very talented, and I think they could surprise people.
And it just seems like them saying all the DLC characters are free is like, oh, this is there's gonna be a lot of characters in this. They're gonna it feels like they're gonna push this hard. They're just being so dumb about how they're selling it. Just we should have way more information at this point.
Right.
That announcement should have been, saying that Captain America's dead was just such a dumb thing. It was like, of course he's not. And like having Banner and Iron Man argue. Just like, I don't know. There's just nothing really unique here that to grasp onto.
We're not at that.
Marvel Girl
phase.
was finally, here we go. And now it's getting somewhere.
But what
now
I want
there's
to
something to be
say,
excited about, something new, something fresh, something that more feels like Phase 4.
This whole sensation that you're describing, Brandon, with Avengers, and I think you're doing a great job with it. That is exactly how I felt about Fallen Order, and I love that game.
Right. Yeah.
I love it a lot, and I didn't until I played it. And
Yeah.
so I think with that in mind, I think going into 2020, obviously there are things that I cannot wait for, but in a way, I'm kind of looking forward to Marvel's Avengers the most, just because it is the unknown for me. Like, it could really go either way.
I'm curious.
Yes, I'm very curious. Doom Eternal.
And it will not win awards at all.
Marvel?
It might be nominated for like one of the voice actors, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I think
that
you're
game's-
right.
That game's not winning awards.
I think you're right. Doom Eternal.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think
Yes.
this one is extremely obvious, but I thought of something, and I want to get your take on it. I think Doom Eternal is going to be incredibly well received. I have almost no doubts about
yeah.
that. But I was thinking, is Doom one of those series, especially now after Doom 2016, at this point, like, is it alienating in the sense that you're either in or out? Like, and that does not speak to its quality at all. It doesn't
Yeah,
even
I hear
touch
what you
it.
mean. Yeah.
But, like, is Doom kind of one of those things where you already know if you're going to play and enjoy it or not? Like,
Right.
Kind of.
are there people out there that are like, man, this really doesn't seem for me? Like, is Doom at a position where it's hard to get new people in?
I think
because
Doom
of-
2016 was the point to get new people in.
Right,
And like
exactly.
now you know what you're getting.
Right.
Like it's gonna be great, but I know what I'm getting into.
Right, exactly. And so I completely agree with you, Brad. So I think Doom Eternal are like, I'd be curious. Let me know, dear audience, like, are you outside of the Doom bubble, and does it
Yeah.
seem like at arm's reach to you in a way? I'd
And
be
that
curious.
seems like kind of the sacrifice of a game like Doom and other things where it's like they should be as true as they possibly can to Doom. Be as true as they can to 2016. Be true to themselves in making
Absolutely.
this. But
100%.
it's a weakness at the same time because they are catering to specific people that like, it's like a really good restaurant.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh my God, that sushi is so good. Well, I don't like sushi. You're like, well,
But yeah.
then you won't like that restaurant, but damn, you should, it's so good.
But that is exactly the approach that you want them to take. You don't want them to do this bland, trying to appeal to the biggest possible market. Like, you want them to send the message that they're sending. I think they're doing a great job of it. But I always think that's interesting. Like, I love hearing from the people that are like, yeah, this isn't, I can't, I feel a distance from it. I love hearing from those people. All right, let's do another maybe more contentious one. Bleeding Edge. Do you remember what Bleeding Edge is?
Yes.
This is the Ninja Theory game, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The multiplayer game.
Uh-huh.
I don't know, really know anything about this game. It's like a first person. Is it first or third?
Third. It's
Third
like
person
character-driven
hero
multiplayer.
action.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
kind of. Yes.
This game needed to launch the way Apex Legends did.
Just boom.
This
Out.
game needs
I
a
agree
second
with that.
announcement. This
Yeah.
game needs to start over, unfortunately, because it got leaked and I think, man, in this industry, in this gen, one of the hardest damn things I think you can do is create a game based on how much you like our cast. To make a game like Apex, to make a game like not Borderlands, but
Battleborn?
Yeah, Battleborn. Even Overwatch 2, I think it can't just be Overwatch 2. There has to be something special about it, especially like if it's kind of a Doom situation, especially if you want other people who've never played Overwatch to come in and check it out.
Right.
And I think this is completely reliant on just how damn fun it is. I think that's like the only information that we don't have that we need. I don't care what the story is. I don't care what the characters are. I don't care what their abilities are. I don't care how good it looks. I need to see a streamer having a blast with it, or I need to read reviews that are just off the charts. Or numbers of people watching the streams or playing the game that exceeded expectations.
I do think you're right. Like, some sort of buzz would be really important, because if it is reliant on fun, it's not easily accessible in a way that an Apex Legends is, where it's like, oh, I can just like easily go and download it right now and play it and talk to all my friends about it and get them on board and have it makes sense. You don't have that. And so I agree it needs a second announcement. Or it needs to sell the characters in a way that it hasn't.
Make you want to get invested in them?
Of course, I'm partially responsible for this. It's like I'm not following up. I'm not looking for information. But when it is showing up to these big events like E3, it's like, I don't remember any of your characters. That's not a good thing.
One of the gals is a motorcycle. That's all. She's got like a big wheel on her. That's all I remember. I think another guy's got a hook. That's a.
I'm saying this in almost like a I feel for it way, but I think it has a tough road.
Me too.
Ahead of it.
Me too. Hope it does good though.
Halo Infinite.
Boy, question. Just a massive big.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about this
green
game.
Question mark.
I don't know what this game's gonna be like. Like Halo is always like a big thing in name at least, and it seems like they've been gone for a while. Like really, they got to do something different with this. I just feel like Halo needs something different because I think 5 people are just like whatever. Even at like 4 people are just like eh.
I agree, and I'm even seeing that with Gears 5 in a way, and it's very strange because the people that
100%
played Gears 5 are like, this is great. Like this is a good ass game. But I think Gears 5 is also at the same time struggling to win people back over and excite them and be like, this is different in a way. And so, yeah, I agree. I think that's what Halo Infinite needs to do for sure.
The story didn't necessarily do it for me. You know, the last trailer introducing this new character and just being like, oh, here's Master Chief, and he's having a rough go, and it's like that's every Halo trailer, man. Like that's every it's like almost the depth of his character needs to be defined by how many scratches he has on his armor, and or like these incredible shows of strength, or just how tough the bosses he's going up against. And it's like when we first saw this game, he showed a big ass world. You showed a warthog driving away, and the camera was very far away from that warthog. And so it's like, is that what the Infinite means? Is it just the big open world that we can run around, or is it multiplayer in a way that you haven't done before? Is it Destiny? It's like, what's going on? And so I feel like that intentionally we don't know that's going to be the next coming out.
Destiny. Whoa.
They need a gigantic hour-long event where they don't sit on couches. They play it the whole time.
Yeah.
And you just get, by the end of that, you're like, whoa, like that podcast the week after, it takes 45 minutes for us to even cover it. It's just like, damn, they showed a lot of stuff. But if they do a little piecemeal here and here, no one's going to care. Yeah. No one's going to remember it.
Brandon, I completely agree. I think the next time that we see Halo Infinite, it needs to be big, and people need to be able to be like, here is what this is.
Yeah.
Here are the details.
But no rush.
Kind of a rush. I mean, if it's launching
with their
next rush in terms of its launch date, but not in terms of like, it's been so long since we saw it. We all just kind of dropped it. It's like, unless you're a giant Halo fan, like I'll pick up that fandom back again when they announce that they're going to make that thing. Like, oh, here we go. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. But Halo has the luxury of doing that, where it,
But now that we know the Series X, now that we've seen that baby, it's like, okay, well, all the ducks are in a row for you to tell us. Now that we've potentially seen stuff maybe in engine on that console, or you're really saying like this wait till you see games that are running on this.
I think the Series X is kind of making the right decisions, where I was thinking about it this morning, and I was like, I think Hellblade 2 is kind of the perfect thing to do at the Game Awards with the way that they unveiled Series X, where it's like the people that are probably watching this show are probably the same type of people that would have played a game like Hellblade anyway, and that trailer was pretty grabbing, but obviously Hellblade isn't this huge game, and so it was like the right scale.
It won a game award. The actor who won that game award was in the trailer. Phil is known for making making waves at the Game Awards themselves, like the infamous appearances that he's made.
But there's also still this huge window to have that event where it's like, hey, we played Halo Infinite on Series X. It blew them. Like, I don't know. The pieces are in place. I hope they're able to stick it.
Gotta play that first Hellblade.
We could do this for like another hour. So obviously there's going to be a ton of things that I've skipped over, a ton of things that I really care about.
I can see them. You've got a big, and you're actually, I love that you're just kind of scrolling through based on the conversations that we're having.
Yeah. And so I'm leaving a lot on the table, like Half-Life Alyx, Resident Evil 3 Remake, Bravely Default 2, No More Heroes 3. There's a lot of things here that we could talk about. Deadly Premonition 2, Ori and the Will of the Wisp. a lot of conversations we could have. The last one that I'm going to do.
Animal Crossing. Okay.
Do you want to do Animal
No,
Crossing?
I don't.
Okay.
I honestly don't.
Okay.
You just scrolled and it was right at the top of the list, and then you scrolled it away.
Yeah. Well,
Because it's not an interesting conversation. To be honest,
It
it's
could
not.
be.
No,
Okay,
it's
all right,
not. It's
all
not.
right.
Especially with your criteria, it's not going to win awards. It's not going to be. You want to talk about Doom Eternal? That's damn. You're a good player. You're not. It's not.
let's talk about Ghost of Tsushima then.
Yeah, that's. I actually when you brought this whole thing up, for some reason, that's the game that floated to my mind.
Yeah, because I feel like there's both a lot to talk about and not at all, which is what makes it interesting.
We've seen a lot of it, and yet I don't know how this game plays. Really,
Right.
I don't know who I'm. Do I get quests from people, or do I just kind of run around the world? Like, who is there a central villain? Like, we kind of know he's an origin story. You know, he got beat down. He's literally a ghost because they thought he died.
Right.
We know there's stealth elements. We've seen him zip around and finish. We know about that blood tech. With so many shots of him with the horse, but we never see him like get anywhere. You know, like we never see like what
ride, get off somewhere, walk in somewhere.
Yeah, it's like we yeah.
Seems
what
stealth
are
kill
settlements
stuff.
like? What is? Can I play this game entirely Japanese? I hope so.
Yeah, I think
yeah,
you can.
I would be
Yeah,
shocked
pretty
if
sure you
couldn't.
can.
That'd be dope.
I think I asked him.
You're right.
Yeah.
We have seen a lot, kind of. But I also feel like the way that this game is presenting itself is really interesting. Where I feel like it's presenting itself in such a way where it's like you will care. Like you may not care yet, but based on the way that Sony has been marketing and releasing very specific types of games, and based on how they've been presenting Ghost of Tsushima, it's almost like they're making this bet where it's like, this will be awesome.
Yeah.
You know?
They're
That's why
treating
it's-
this
that's why it's
very
fascinating,
different
yeah.
compared to Days Gone.
Yeah.
Like, think of how
Oh
they
my
rolled
God,
that game
yeah.
out.
Yeah,
It's, like,
yeah.
pretty different.
You could tell right away that Days Gone was not going to be a Last of Us.
Are you saying
or
that
a Spider-Man?
because they're presenting Ghost of Tsushima with this level of confidence?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. But I do think with Ghost of Tsushima being a new thing, and this has kind of been disproven this year with this year's Game Awards, but I do think with all of the things that are coming out, like Final Fantasy VII Remake, like Cyberpunk 2077, like Half-Life Alyx, like Resident Evil 3 Remake, that do you think it will, like, is it going to be a game that's going to be like, oh my God, this is the best game of the year? Or is it going to be like, it was a good game in a year with really good games?
I think it'll be one of the best games when I think about it, because I think about Sucker Punch, and I think they're extremely talented.
Yes,
They've
I
been
agree.
working on this game a long time, too. And what I've seen of it, everything looks great. Everything looks great. If it's like an open world game where you're exploring this island in Japan, that's awesome. Like, I don't know if you're going to be in quest stuff, but everything they've shown, like, even, I think it was last E3, they showed, like, him breaking into that building, like stealth killing people, then like the fight with the other woman,
Right.
like all that stuff is really awesome. But then when we saw him like on the roof doing like ninja stuff, I was like, yeah, baby, this is great. This is great.
I just want to know what leads up to that. You know, was there like multiple steps that eventually brought me to this point, or did I just
Well, I think
stumble across it?
the whole like, oh, you mean like story wise?
Yeah.
So like, I believe it's the island getting invaded by, I think it's Mongolians or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, getting invaded, like everyone getting wiped out pretty much on this island, and like like you said, he survives it.
Yeah.
Becomes this like supernatural.
Because that revenge story is delicious.
It's gonna be,
but
yeah.
it's not. They just haven't really. I'm
So-
not really able to sink my teeth into it yet.
And
so-
one interesting thing is that when they first saw the gameplay, he was more of a samurai kind of. But
Yeah.
now when we're seeing him again, like later on, he's like a ninja, like how
Yeah.
he's playing. So I don't know if you're going to bounce between these two different types of like personas or something like that.
One thing that I'm always a sucker for, and I immediately think of Final Fantasy IV with Cecil, and I guess I don't want to spoil this if you haven't seen it.
Oh,
but-
his evolution?
well, yeah, just I love. I don't feel like games do this enough. Is just taking a character that is trained in one discipline and then for very compelling reasons
Learns a different.
completely changes that discipline.
I think that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, I love that idea, and I think there's so much that you can do with it.
Exploring this island is it's gonna look crazy good. It's like Sony first party. It's gonna
That's
be
it,
nuts. It's gonna look nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see Sucker Punch, you know, kind of like bookend the gen, you know, like starting it out with Infamous Second Son.
Yeah,
which
they're
was, like, one of the first
pretty-
games we ever played in the PS4, and then coming back
And
now.
yeah, one of the could be the last first party game on
It's
PS4.
like poetry. It rhymes.
It
Yeah,
is.
it does.
But it does. I mean, it does rhyme in the sense of like, you know, like Sony investing in Insomniac. Spider-Man was amazing. Sony investing in, you know, Naughty Dog, and like, man, they've done very little wrong on that console. And then here's Sucker Punch just waiting for their turn. It's like the talent show, you know. It's like, and now Sucker Punch. We're all like, finally, you know. And so it just, I think I have good vibes about it. And that's, boy, this is just our game. You know, like we talk about Tenchu all the time.
Yeah.
You know, so I've been waiting for something like this. And I think it's when we talk about Game of the Year, I think it's gonna be one of those things where it's got its ups and downs, but like the quality level is just there. It doesn't sing maybe like some of the other crazy things, or maybe it doesn't have the depth of something like a Cyberpunk, but like, oof. Yeah. Wow, it was just a crisp, stellar game.
I love doing these things because there's always at least one that I am completely wrong about. Like,
that's why we gotta come back.
Because like Horizon Zero Dawn, I was just like nah.
Yeah,
loved that game.
Yeah.
Jedi Fallen Order, I was like nah. It has rebirthed my Star Wars fandom, so you never know what's gonna happen, and that's what's fun. Are we ready for some emails?
Yeah.
We're gonna close this podcast out.
I even had good vibes about Zero Dawn, but I couldn't defend him because I don't know. Looks open world and stuff.
And you're like, oh, it's Guerrilla?
Yeah.
Like, Killzone's good, but...
I never played any Killzone games, so...
Okay.
We're going to start with a jovial first email here. Best Christmas gaming memories. This is actually something we did a video on, but I thought we would revisit it. Greetings from Kansas City. With Christmas only days away, I wanted to ask the panel about your favorite Christmas gaming memories. For me, the highlights include getting the N64 with Super Mario 64 on Christmas and having my mind blown by just how good it looked. I also have some very fond memories of getting the GameCube on Christmas, despite being let down at the time that it wasn't a PS2. The GameCube turned out to be an amazing console for my brother and I. There's also a great home video of my brother and I losing our minds when we got the original Smash Bros. On N64 while my two sisters looked at us like we were crazy. Good times. What are your favorite Christmas gaming memories?
We just did this, actually, didn't we?
We did it on the podcast. I got another one.
We just did it on the podcast?
It was like the same thing.
I'll tell a different story.
Oh, no.
And it's not like favorite.
You got me again.
But it does crack me up. It does crack me up when I think about this. So I got a gift one time from my aunt and uncle, and apologies if you've heard this before, but I could tell it was an NES game. I knew it. They wrapped it perfectly around that box, and I was like, I know that box. And this is the only time I've ever done this. I promise. It's the only time I ever peeked. And it was like the couple days before Christmas.
I peeked a lot as a kid.
And I peeked because they wrapped. I knew the title of the game was on the side, so I knew all I got to do is just that one piece of tape and fold it up. And then peek in, and I can see what it is, and then I'll close it.
Very similar strat.
Because I just want to know. You know, I just want to know what I'm going to be playing. I want to prep myself for what it's going to be. And I was like, all right, here we go. Open it up, and it's Faxonadu. I was like, what the hell's that? I just closed it up, and I was like, what the hell's Faxonadu? And it was turned out to be a fun action RPG.
I feel like that game. I haven't
it's
played
a side-scrolling action RPG.
It's
pretty fun.
Yeah,
but this was before the internet, so it wasn't like I bring up my smartphone.
Like, what is this?
Faxonadu. I went to bed last night being like, what is Faxonadu? I enjoyed it, but it was just neat. And there was a kind of a pleasure to that. Like I buy all of my own games. I even like when it's Christmas or birthday, like I don't have people buying me games because they're like, why would I do that? Maybe I'll get a gift card or something, but they're like, I'm not going to buy you something because I don't know what you have. I don't want to. Even if they ask Amanda, does he have this? Man's like, I don't know. And so it was kind of a treasured period of just somebody be like, play that. And you're like, okay, cool. Let's try it.
So I've told the PS2 story before, but kind of along the same lines, Brandon, that is actually something that I really miss and I didn't think about at the time, is like you'd be around other kids and like you would get different games and you'd be excited to talk about them and be like, oh, you got this, that's so awesome. And now sometimes when it's like I get a game at Christmas, it's just like you can't, you're an adult now, like you can't do it in the same way. And they're like, especially with Abby's family, it's like, oh, what'd you get? This thing, and you say it, you know, you're nice about it, you talk about it, but they just have like no idea what it is, and you're just like, this is the end of that conversation.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's a little awkward, but I miss those excited, childlike things. You got anything, Brian? I know you just did this.
So I did Super Nintendo on the podcast, and like a lot of my systems, I was so young, I can't remember that well. Like I got the NES really young, and I got the Genesis pretty young. I didn't get this on Christmas because we couldn't find it at the time. But we got it like right after Christmas was the N64. Yeah. I remember going to Toys R Us, man. Like had this like little back area where they had all the games and everything like that. And going up there, getting the console and asking what games they had. Didn't have Mario.
Oh.
And my dad's like, was like, oh no, Mario.
You only had like 5 things to pick from.
But we got Shadows of the Empire too, which is
nice.
great.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, the store was great. But I was like, oh no, Mario sucks though. My dad's like, let's try another store, man. Went to this store, I believe it's called Fedco.
Fedco?
Yeah, they're not. It was like a department store kind of thing. They don't really have them anymore. I think you needed like a card, like a Sam's Club thing almost to go there. Got Mario there, baby.
Nice.
I was like,
No one's looking for Mario at Fedco.
Feels good.
Went home, got it. My brother played it first. And he played Mario for like an hour, then he like never played video games like again on consoles. That was it. That was it.
He peaked.
That was it. My brother was out, man.
Yeah, but then you inherited it.
Yeah,
You got all
yeah,
the cool stuff.
yeah.
I feel, man, I'm so bummed because, like, I'm familiar with Shadows of the Empire, and I know friends that had it, and like, I like played it at their house or whatever, but I never really had the Shadows of the Empire experience. I feel like that is a game that everybody, like, talking to them now, they're so nostalgic for.
It was the
I just didn't
first.
like.
Hold
I
up,
had
man.
it in 64.
360,
I love
3D
Rogue
Star Wars
Squadron.
games I ever played.
It's a very varied Star Wars experience.
Yeah.
A lot
It
going
has
on, yeah.
Two really fun flying levels, third person or first person, like platforming,
Exploration,
action, cool
yeah.
abilities, like
Yeah.
cool items, some fun little lore bits because it takes place in between Hoth and Return of the Jedi, so like, or Hoth Empire. Yeah, I mean everybody's like, it's the second level. I love all. I think maybe my favorite level besides the second level is just like a jetpack thing where you have
dude.
you have a jetpack
And there's Boba Fett,
and you
I think.
Boba Fett's at the end of the level and you go like down a canyon and so you're like.
Yeah,
and you have to like
sick.
mod how much you're using the fuel because you land and then you recharge the fuel and then you gotta take off again.
Dude, even the train
and then,
level.
like, dudes are shooting at you from the distance, but you're on the jetpack, so you gotta dodge.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Fun.
Don't like the sewer level though.
Do you think I could appreciate?
Like the what?
Sewer level. You
It's
remember?
creepy though, man.
Yeah,
The
I
Dinogas
know,
under the
it freaks
water.
me out. I
creepy.
don't like it.
Do you think I could appreciate Shadows of the Empire now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's some-
Okay. That's
some-
encouraging. That's
Yeah.
encouraging. Our next email comes in from Greg. Hey, allies. Platinum Games is a developer that I personally have loved since their creation, but after seeing the latest trailer for Babylon's Fall, it really didn't land for me. When I started to figure out exactly why that was, I feel like it boiled down to Platinum Games getting too stale in one note. While each game lately isn't the exact same, the art style, levels, gameplay action, cameras across their games over the last several years are all blending together and getting a very same feel. What happened to games like Vanquish or Wonderful 101 or Infinite Space? They started with that creative energy in a lot of IPs and genres, and it's now funneled down into a sliding scale of do the Bayonetta thing, again for their own works and their contract work, Transformers, Turtles, etc. Is Platinum getting too close to wearing out the Platinum game formula?
This is Square Enix too, right? I think this is Square and Platinum. This game, Babylon's Fall.
Yeah. Sorry.
So I'm
just
hoping
trying to understand the
it'll
context
have
of it.
some other element to it, kind of like Nier. How Nier has like
Sure.
combat that feels like Platinum combat to an extent, but it also has so much more to it.
Sure, I think
I'm
that's a
hoping
really good
Babylon's
point.
Fall kind of has like a hook like that besides the combat. But like at first glance, we were like, yeah, that's a platinum ass looking Platinum game.
Well, so I totally get where Greg is coming from, and I think it's a fair observation. I really do, as somebody who really goes to bat for Platinum. But here's why I think this is happening. I think those kind of outlandish creative things are much harder to do than the thing that is your wheelhouse, right? And so I think that thing was scale bound. I think this thing that would have fit alongside those more creative, not saying that these things are creative, but what you're trying to refer to, I think that was scale bound, and scale bound didn't work out. And so there is this void, there is this hole. And of course, people love that Platinum game, and so I think they are going to do variations of that. I think they're going to continue to do that. And I think to their benefit, there aren't really that many games that can do it the way they can. And so it hasn't gotten too stale for me, but I get where you're coming from. I think Scalebound didn't work out. That's why you feel this way. But I think that creativity is still there at Platinum. I wouldn't write them off yet. I think it's
not yet.
coming. I think it's just it takes a lot of time and energy and failure to work out.
I feel like a lot of their other games that aren't necessarily like the action type of game don't do as well.
Yeah.
So
I think that's true as well.
like the action games seem to do well for them. So
Yeah.
I'm sure they're cooking up other ideas, but they do a lot of these because it works. They do really good at it.
Yeah, and I do want to give a shout out to Astral Chain. Like I have problems with Astral Chain, but
But the combat you love.
right, the combat I love, but that game
tries things.
Takes the Platinum formula and really does get creative with it in a lot of ways. I don't always think it works out, but the structure of the game, how it's presented, how the characters interact, like there is a lot in it that doesn't just result in Bayonetta again. Like it's much different
For sure.
than that. For sure. And I think Astral Chain's really, I'm glad that Astral Chain exists. But yeah, I thought this was an interesting email.
Sure, yeah.
And it was the kind of email where I was like, I get where you're coming from.
I could see
Greg.
that. I feel like we've like barely seen anything in this game so far. So I'm hoping there's more to it, you know?
Right.
Easy thing for me to say on the outside looking in because I don't spend a lot of time with this developer, and so it's just like, oh, okay, I could kind of, if the name didn't pop up, I would like lean into you, Ben, and be like, did Platinum do this?
Right. And I think a lot of people feel that way. Like Ian is like, I just don't like. He just kind of lumps Platinum games together, and I get it. And so I hope that maybe they're able to break out and show people the way with some other projects. We'll see. Last email, really like this email a lot. It comes in from Morgan. Deleted scenes from The Office and the need for more significant extras. Hello, Ben and Allies. Recently on YouTube, I found a channel that contains deleted scenes from The Office, with each episode's deleted scenes lasting between 5 to 20 minutes. It really is like getting a new episode of a classic show that I love. I sincerely think streaming services should have an option for extended episodes that contain this meaningful content. I would love to pay for it. This got me thinking about that games could do the same thing. I recall that Brad streamed Bloodborne's cut content and thought to myself, I would gladly pay for some polished up cut content. Does the panel think this is an idea worth implementing following a game's success? Something to include as an extra with the game, something that should never see the light of day. Respectfully,
I feel like a lot of post-game DLC might be cut content. Because I always just think back to Artorias of the Abyss and how like all that was like cut content. They wanted to have like Ulasil in there.
Right.
It's like, we can't finish this right now. We'll do it later. So it's like, I don't know how many games have that. Where they're like, we had this idea, but we weren't able to finish it, so let's throw it on. Because pretty sure almost every game has cut content.
Right. And I do, like, I really super appreciate where Morgan is coming from, because I love where the head is at here, and I want that. But with a TV show or a movie, it's just like, and this is oversimplifying it, but it's just like, this is a story that you can just see. With a game, it's like, okay, is it broken? How do the mechanics work? Like there, like how when you interact with it, like I feel like there are just so many more variables to consider.
Yeah.
That it's hard to just like give it to you. But something that Valve has done is included commentary into the games,
The Portal commentary is fantastic.
Yeah,
Like,
that's super cool.
why doesn't this happen more? I just want to hear people talk about the things
that's
they made.
really awesome.
Put it in the game. Put it in the game.
Put it in the game.
Portal's fun because it's like a physical object in the world. So you go up to it and click it, and then they start talking. So that would be neat. You know, it'd be so much fun to play God of War, and you just go over, and there's like a little Corey's face. And
Right.
Boop, you know, like,
And obviously,
So
all
this
this stuff
area.
is like harder to do than probably
For
to make
sure.
it seem. But yeah, why not do that? Also, like,
or for Reach, you know.
yeah,
And that's re-released. You know, it's like have a track that'll just cue when you go through certain hallways, and they'll start talking about it.
something that I'm really loving about like just diving into Star Wars and learning more about its creation is just like the way, like looking at some of those original concepts for like Vader and Luke and Leia. It's like, whoa, that's way different than what they ended up being. I love that. Just seeing the iteration of ideas and being like, well, this guy was completely different, or we had to move this character and we thought they were going to be huge and they ended up being minor. I love seeing the transformation of that stuff in any way. And again, it could just be people talking about it and showing concept art or whatever. But I think that could be really cool. I do agree. A lot of times I play a game and you'll like look it up on Wikipedia and you'll see like the director and the producer and the composer, but there's a whole team of people working on it. And sometimes it's really hard to get a sense of like, how did you guys come together to make this thing work? And I do wish there was more of that. In the
Yeah, I
industry.
wish more games came with like making of documentaries or something like that.
Yeah.
Those are great.
That's like the best part of any wiki page. It's just like right at the bottom.
Yep.
Where they're like, so here's this weird story, and this was on hold for a certain amount of time, and finally happened.
We got a lot of Star Wars snuck into this.
Yeah.
We got Galaxy of Heroes in this
Pew,
episode.
pew. Yeah.
Oh, it'll be back. Year 5.
In 4 years.
Ba-da-dum.
Year 8.
When they add the Mandalorian, I'll come back with an update.
Mando.
I'm having a good time with it, Brandon. I'm surprised.
Yay, I'm glad.
Yeah.
I
mean, I'm playing
again,
it super casually, but
I hope you manage to keep that up.
yeah.
Which is why you haven't unlocked allies yet, right? That we can't.
Well, I'm like, you unlock allies at like level 18. I'm like level 16 or something. So
the moment you
Close.
do that, then you can use my characters for
Kristen
stuff.
told
And
me
so, like,
Brandon was OP.
I want to just put you in a wheelbarrow and just just put, guide you through
God.
that game.
that sounds awesome and kind of terrible. Like the way that I'm playing it is like, oh, I'm in line or waiting for something. Like I'm not like actively sitting down and
Right.
putting a lot of focus into it. But yeah, fun episode. Thank you so much, Brandon and Brad.
Yeah.
Brad doing double duty on Frame Trap.
Yeah, man.
We are down on people, so it was so nice of you two. Like I was
Holidays,
like
baby.
desperately
Yeah.
reaching for people to come into Frame Trap. So thank you both for agreeing to do this. If you want to learn more about us, please go to patreon.com/easyallies, where you can choose to support us and keep this thing going. You can also learn more about all of the great things that we're doing, like new shows, like Huber's Prison of Love.
Yeah.
If you wanna check
to
that, shout out to that, where he locks somebody in and they play a game and they love it. If you want to send an email address, the email address is askeasyallies@gmail.com. One more time, I said that very fast. It is askeasyallies@gmail.com. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.